What is up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast that 8 out of 10 doctors agree is better for you than playing for the Miami Dolphins, the Sports Clichés podcast. I'm Greg. That's Jay.
Oh, good
And
God. All right,
if it
yeah.
makes you feel any better, the other two doctors are the Miami Dolphins team doctors, so shaky at best with their medical degrees.
Yeah, just
How you doing?
stay away from me with the golf tee needles, all right? I'm good. All that. I'm doing all right, It's good old Friday, end of the week, so looking forward to the weekend. Looking forward to some great games, some great college and NFL football games. But we did have one last night. Pretty I mean, I think the only thing you're gonna ever be able to walk away from this game is the handling of Tua, the situation that kind of rose from that scary look, obviously. The fucking I don't know the whole game itself. I think was up to that point, you know, good old slugfest between two pretty damn good teams. It seems like, but it gets overshadowed when something like that happens. Obviously, right?
Let's call a spade on this one. He was 100% concussed going into that game. If you watched the way he was playing leading up to that, he didn't look like himself. He was overthrowing guys by a lot on a couple of throws, and that's just not something Tua does very often. The play, obviously, against the Bills, we all saw what happened when he got up. That's not a back issue. You don't stagger and collapse the way he did on a back issue. He was obviously concussed. And the Dolphins were given the pass by the NFL to just shirk it. Do the bare minimum.
Yeah, I mean,
Smear some stuff. You're
it
good.
it's kind of it's one of these funny things to where I think, yeah, you could look to a lot of parties. Obviously, folks are going to point to the NFL and uh, the Dolphins themselves, leadership all across the board on that one. Um, you know, I and I'll get to that point in a second. One of the funny aspects to also look at is the NFLPA and how it was a concern, but then they kind of let it slide too to let him play.
Yeah.
I don't think there was much of an uproar from them. It gets really interesting when all parties involved essentially, and obviously two is going to go out and play. This is a league of the 1% of the 1%. These guys, you have to be wound in a certain way, a certain competitive nature. Most folks, anyways, that are going to be playing the game to do that. It's no surprise to me that a guy that might be a little dinged up still feels like he can go. Dinged up being a very nice term to put, still, yeah, in a
Yeah.
vulnerable state as far as, for a league that has been, under, scrutiny for their handling of their athletes when it comes specifically to this issue of concussion, CT, that sort of thing. We've seen it a couple times, though. This isn't the first player that's had who's gotten absolutely rocked and then comes back in that game. And sometimes after an incredibly short amount of plays. Like sometimes it's within the same drive, They don't even get another series, that sort of thing. It's like, oh yeah, they set out, a couple plays. By the end of the drive, like they're still like you see crazy situations like that, and it's just like how many people are looking at that. I think the major thing in this one though, it was very interesting to me, and it's gonna be different for everybody, and some coaches are going to coach a certain way and look at their personnel. And it's not to say that they don't necessarily care or anything like that, but that's a decision ultimately Mike Daniels could have right there. he makes the final decision who walks out there for his team. And I saw a really interesting piece. I can't remember the exact name of the podcast, but it's Ryan Clark and a couple of those guys. It's a pretty famous player podcast, but they had Tomlin on there, and Tomlin talks about Ryan Clark at the time, and he was in recovery from sickle cell. That had been known, that had been out there. I guess they're going in to play a game against Denver. Everybody's giving the all clear. Tomlin ultimately says no, doesn't allow Ryan Clark to go out and play that game for because he still feels it's too soon after everything, and ultimately he felt a responsibility to the player that goes beyond just I need my best guys out there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything malicious or anything from Mike Daniels or his coaching staff as far of it, and I'm sure Tua's probably, I would imagine, trying to plead his case for playing. That I guess was the Ryan Clark situation. He was ready to plead his case to play. Ultimately, didn't matter to Tomlin. I just wonder if this is going to mark another spot. It's like, how many times are you going to let things like this happen until you really have, I don't know, a sort of, at this point, it needs to be put into the rule set, it seems like. Yeah. It can't just be judgment calls. It seems like, for the safety of these players, if you're truly concerned, like the NFL, NFLPA, these guys claim they are, it's got to go beyond that. Because, no way he should have been out there. And, I mean, we saw the fucking play. And fucking Amazon running, whoever runs that goddamn network,
how do you run five replays of it?
That's fucking terrible, dude. And I oddly enough, Craig had popped into my channel. I was streaming at the time. Said, asking if I was watching. I said I kind of saw it, but like I didn't see the play itself. I had walked away, and luckily I had done something. By the time I came back, they weren't running those replays anymore. It's only until after the fact that I found out how kind of egregious that was. And I'm like, yo. And then post game, it's not even a fucking issue. And I'm sure they're told by the NFL or whatever to make it a non-issue. But you're going to use it to, you're going to show that shit on TV 5 times, and then you're not even going to discuss it after the fact. It's just kind of a real, it's Bush League. It's not the sort of programming you should really be putting out there, especially in your first year of running NFL games there, Amazon, but whatever. It's just, I'm not surprised. Fox, CBS, they would have probably all done the same shit, right? But it just, yeah.
B and I disagree with that, because I've seen plenty of Fox broadcasts where like a bad injury happens. Listen, for the out of respect for the player, we are not going to show the replays of this. Just know that it is a bad injury, right? This looks very serious, and like I've seen that happen so many times where Fox will cut the commercial and come back and just be like, "If you missed it, we apologize, but we will not show the replay of this." Right? I can name numerous times where I've seen that happen. And to just constantly go back on loop on that replay of like, oh yeah, here's where his head slams against the ground. Look at how his fingers are curled up in front of his face as he is clearly struggling for consciousness and is unaware of where he is. Isn't it fascinating? No, it's not. Like, don't. Just don't. You don't need to see it more than once. The second it happens in live TV, done. This isn't one of those situations where it's like, oh, it might be a serious injury, and then you look at the replay and go, oh my god, that's a serious injury. Let's stop showing the replays.
Yeah.
He hits the ground. I have never seen a player do what he did with his fingers, where they're just like curled up in front of his face like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You don't need to show that anymore.
Yeah.
Done.
It's there's absolutely the visceral aspect to it, and it's kind of funny. I saw someone brought up the point, And I guess this would work for both me and you because we've watched a good amount of fight sports. You watch, grew up watching boxing, watching UFCs and shit like that. Guys go concussed, they go into some pretty shaky situations, right? But that's
Yeah.
the thing. I think boxing cleaned it up quite a bit. There are times when guys go down, get back up, go down, get back up.
Yeah.
All right, you didn't go down 3 times in a round. Well, get the fuck back out there again. They
You're good.
do a lot better than that. UFC has been very good about the safety of their fighters. Obviously, the the visceral thing of guys that are practically bare knuckled essentially
Yeah.
hitting each other. That's always been a shock factor. I know for my grandfather growing up, he watched boxing growing up, was perfectly fine with that, but he had something against mixed martial arts in that sense. And I did kind of have this explain it to him. It's like, yeah, it's visceral in that sense, right? It's very much like but it's as soon as that happens, as soon as that guy goes out, lights out, he can't actively defend himself anymore. Fight stopped. Right there,
Yeah.
then there's nothing more. Boxing has gotten better to do the same thing. And so that's the question is like, well, you're used to seeing guys go, but like, there's so many rules and things that are put in place in those sports for that to happen. And in football, it's uh, as we've seen, you're like, boxers go months between fights, right?
Yeah.
This guy went 4 days between games. It's fucked. That's that.
And
Yeah, you wouldn't put a UFC fighter out there again in 4 days unless this is like the way back in the day tournaments, and that wouldn't have happened either. So it's like,
no.
what the hell is this? Like, it's very it's like, oh, we're just he got cleared, that sort of thing. You gotta take better responsibility for this shit, honestly.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Like, here's the thing though. Who's clearing them, right? Like,
yeah, whatever independent doctors, right?
yeah, just the
Along with
random.
Dolphins medical staff. Yeah, I think it's just a
That's just
combination of those two, right?
right. Like, it's your own doctors and these outside people who you are paying are clearing this guy to go, and it's like, well, why?
Yeah,
Right? Why is it not an independent person, independent of both the team
yeah,
and the NFL? This needs to be a third party that has no
yeah,
connection, right? Uh, the Legacy Medical Institute is a fantastic place that their whole thing is concussions. They study the brains of athletes, they study concussions, they study CTE.
yeah,
That needs to be the kind of organization that steps in on this and goes, "Whoa, we are doing this. We are looking, we are testing, we are going to find out whether this guy's good to play or not. You have no say."
yeah,
Right? It needs to be something like that. Because if it's the NFL or the team, or even as we learned, the NFLPA, they're going to pick money over player every time. That's what we learned.
yeah.
They are going to pick money over player. And I'd like to say, I'd like to shit all over the Dolphins for this. And a lot of people are. And obviously they had the needle thing a little while back as well with Jacoby Brissett. It
Right.
was Brissett, right? With the needle in the ribs. Um,
Uh, why? Yeah, maybe I am flaking on that. Was it percent? Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
Tyrod Taylor.
Oh, it's Tyrod. There we
It
go.
was Tyrod, and it was the Chargers, not the Dolphins.
Yes.
Um, but like the Dolphins are getting flamed, and deservedly so. They should. But let's be honest. I'm a Falcons fan. In the situation, Falcons probably do the same thing. You're a Niners fan. In the situation, I think we can agree, Niners probably do the same thing, right? Like the issue here is that these teams are run by people who care more about the profit than the players who are playing for them, right? And the issue is we're not getting coaches on the sideline who are willing to step in and say no, right? There are coaches out there who do, right? But what I'm saying here is I'm not going to say this is only a Dolphins issue. Because I guarantee you there are plenty of other franchises that don't have the right coaches in place, that don't have the right systems in place, that would have been able to prevent this from happening.
Yeah, I think it's a thing to where you have to at whatever baseline sort of value they give to it. I think you just have to see that. And if he gets cleared no matter what, like Mike Daniels is a smart enough dude.
Yeah.
He clearly knows football very well. I think he has some good insight when it comes to things based around football and approaches to the game and uh, how to train and that sort of thing. Smart enough dude to realize, I would think, that it might be kind of dangerous to play him right now. Granted, you could be told by the doctors because he passed X test,
Yeah.
whatever. That's gotta be. You gotta have a little bit of the willingness to make a judgment call in that situation.
Yeah.
He's a new coach, so who knows that sort of thing. But I don't know. It's tough, man. I really was surprised he played that game. But after that, like I was once they let him play that game and then the investigation came through and nothing was done of it, I knew he was going to play, you know, last night. And you're just
Oh, yeah.
hoping that you just didn't have that situation.
You know,
That's all you really fucking have basically at that point. It's
that's just it. All we could do was hope that, okay, maybe it wasn't as bad as it looked, right? Maybe he is okay. And I think it was, like I said, even before the injury, Tua was not playing well in that game.
yeah.
Like, he was overthrowing guys. Like I said, Tua, you can say whatever you want about Tua's arm strength, yada yada yada. Dude could throw a ball through a pinhole. Crazy accuracy. So when you see him overthrowing dudes the way he was, when you see him trying to scramble and slipping as often as he was, something's weird there, right? And it's easy to say that in hindsight, and I didn't necessarily notice it at the time. But if I'm a coach of a team, I need to be able to see that, right? If I'm the guy who sees this guy practice every day for months leading up to the season, you should be able to recognize, this guy had a
Yeah.
head injury and now he looks really off. Maybe he's not there yet.
Yeah, I mean yeah. I think it has to be awareness from a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Hopefully you hope you have people around you too that will be like, hey, you know, Tua, you might be feeling good. I don't know if you're lying to yourself or what. Like, we know that's not a back injury. Um, and yeah, but it's you get enough people that are just kind of willing to go along with it, and you just hope that nothing bad happens. And we didn't get that. We had something
No.
bad happen, and you only hope that it just doesn't do more uh you know do more damage to him, his career, all that. You just pray for that sort of thing. You hate to fucking see it. Like I got no whatever as far as the competitive aspect or whatever it is. That point, you just don't want to see that to happen. Obviously, to any fucking guy, no matter how good or bad or whatever you feel about that is, they are. It's kind of interesting though. I think I think there's some onus that has to go a little bit on, yeah, the people around him, the players around him. Like, again, yeah, you can only do so much against a guy that really wants to go or whatever, but it's like coaches, players, there's enough people around you that they played the game, they've been around the game, like experience and just common sense and stuff yeah, you really want this game. You really want this game against the Bengals, but it's like, do you how big a fucking deal is like one game? Just send Teddy Bridgewater out there and fucking hope that you do well enough. And at times, if we're to actually talk about the game a bit, at times Teddy looked decent out there. It's like you could have done that. You could have helped this kid out, young player obviously, and yeah, you would have still probably been very competitive in the game if from just strictly a game standpoint. But yeah,
Mostert was running the ball decently well
yeah.
yesterday too, right? You could have easily had some sort of a game plan with Teddy and Raheem running the ball a little bit more than you're used to seeing out of the Dolphins, controlling clock.
Chase Edmonds gotta get those hands together on that ball. He was almost early, man. Yeah, no. If we were to hit upon the game a little bit, this was definitely a bounce back, game for the Bengals. You wouldn't say maybe necessarily they absolutely needed it, but it was not looking good for this Bengals team. They tried getting it going with Joe Mix. Obviously, you get that touchdown early for him, so that's real nice. Still something to be said there on the offensive line really still needing to work together for all that. You kept Burrow pretty clean, only a sack, so better than the 8+ sack games that he was getting earlier. Obviously looked like Teddy and Tyreek had a decent chemistry out there for when it needed to happen. At least a couple balls that look pretty decent out there for him. So for gameplay standpoint, it was a shame Waddle Waddle kind of disappears, and just like another nothing game from Gesicki, which is surprising to see. He just hasn't.
I would say concerning. Like, I think it's hitting the point of concerning for the Dolphins how little Mike Gesicki's actually gotten involved. Because they need a third option. I like Trent Sherfield, but I don't think he's the kind of third option that you need in modern day NFL. Right? You look at the Bengals, right? It wasn't Chase and Boyd who beat them. It was T. Higgins. T. Higgins went off.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the power of having an option like that, as well as I really like the way the Bengals have started to incorporate Hayden Hurst in the red zone. Right, that's a big dude who's a hard matchup in the red zone, and they're just really starting to incorporate that. For the Dolphins, you have Hill and Waddle, and that's fantastic. Works well. Trent Sherfield, he's gonna get his catch. He's gonna do some stuff, but you need that third explosive option who can change a game. And you would think that could be Mike Gesicki, but he just hasn't done it yet. So where's that guy, right? And going down the stretch, there's going to be times you're going to need that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of I think they actually have pretty good makeup as far as their receivers are concerned. I mean, your explosiveness in the 1-2 is Hill Waddle, right? That's where all your pop's coming from. And this is kind of an archetype that we've seen with other NFL teams. Your third wide receiver is going to be a smaller dude, crafty inside slot receiver that's going to be able to make some quick cuts for you. Yeah. That's everything that you're getting out of a Trent Sherfield right there. But yeah, Gesicki should probably be seeing more than 4 targets in the game. Gets a couple catches out of it. We saw the Chase Edmonds drop. We also see him catch Study as well. So they'll have that. And Edmonds, Mostert, that's a backfield you could work with right there. So I like a lot of their weapons, but does it all gel together? Sherfield's seen his touches, some throws his way. Gesicki's not. He does. He needs to get in there, as he probably should be your third most targeted receiver. Sherfield should be a little bit behind that. So I would agree with you on that one. But I think he's a great option as your third wideout.
I don't disagree with that. I do like Trent Sherfield, but like I said,
he's no T. Higgins.
Yeah, he's not T. Higgins, right? He's not T. Higgins to your Chase and Boyd, that's for sure.
Right.
But I think you look at a lot of the teams that they have that third explosive option, right? And I like Sherfield as, like you said, that kind of crafty underneath guy, gonna run you a nice slant route and can turn that 2-3 yard gain into that 8 to 10 yard gain. that's a nice thing to have, but I don't know if he's the break you off a 40-yard gain off of
Right.
something, right?
Yeah.
I look at him very similarly to uh um oh, I'm blanking on the guy's name in Houston. Um I'll remember it and blurt it out in the middle of this episode. But a guy who, really reliable hands, is going to catch the ball frequently, going to get you yards, but is never going to get you that big explosive play on a regular basis, right? Uh Whereas, like I said, you look at the Bengals, Chase and Boyd are your guys, obviously. But you got T. Higgins out there, and you're going to leave him alone?
Yeah.
He's going to beat you.
Yeah.
And he's going to get those big explosive plays, right? A lot of, I think, the elite teams nowadays have that, right? And I think that's kind of where the Dolphins need Gesicki to be in order to truly push as far as, like, pushing the Bills, pushing the AFC West teams, stuff like that. Gesicki's going to need to be the guy who pushes them to that level.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's going to be, as you open up the field with your the dangerous receivers in Hill and Waddle, you'll find a lot of real estate down that middle with Gesicki, Sherfield, even River Craycraft if he gets involved again.
Yeah. It's especially because both Waddle and Tyreek Hill are more boundary guys, right? They're looking to go straight down the sideline, right? They're looking to beat you on the outside, go straight up the sideline. So that hypothetically, your safeties will kind of split to either side to cut them off. That should open up the middle for Gesicki and give you some nice seams there. But they do need to start finding him a little bit more, and I think that's where this Dolphins offense really opens up, because we've seen it for a couple weeks now. This Dolphins offense sputtering a little bit. Now again, a lot of that can probably be put on how good was Tua, and the answer is probably not at all. So you can put a lot of it on that too, because Teddy Bridgewater, I like him. He's a solid backup who you need to play him. He'll win you your fair share of games, but he's not that guy. We learned that last year with Denver, if we didn't already know it from his latter years at Minnesota.
Yeah, it's serviceable, but yeah, exactly. That's just it. And one more thing that I'd like to point out for this game. Hell of a game from Von Bell on that Bengals defense that has been not quite as advertised or as expected from the success last year. Vaughn, I believe he's the one who got the game winning or kind of game ending interception, I should say. Actually took a look at that. That wasn't quite a pick. That ball actually hits the ground. Oddly enough, it's supposed to be reviewed. I guess they took a look at it real quick because that ball absolutely goes out of his hands, hits the ground. He scoops it up, kind of folds, turns over, and they counted a pick. But also had a couple pass deflections in there, so he was all over the place as far as making plays in the safety spot there. So great game for him. And then you get the interesting matchup. I know there was a lot of talk, I guess, or they've had words before. I guess a call out. Tyreek has talked shit about Eli Apple previously. That was supposed to be a thing, but I guess they never really matched up in that game too much. So like that was all for naught. But yeah, a solid enough showing from that Cincinnati defense, at least in the passing game. At that point, Dolphins need to pass, and so you're putting Bridgewater in the situation where he needs to win the game. And kind of what you talked about, it's gonna be hard for him to like win you a game like that.
He won't lose you many games, but he's also not going to win you many.
How many drives are you gonna get out of him? Yeah.
Also, really quickly,
Yeah.
if you're one of the people on the internet today going after Josh Tupou over that sack, kindly go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He was finishing the tackle. he didn't throw him crazy. He didn't do anything malicious. He pulled him down to his head, snap back. That's not on the tackler. This isn't a guy going to take someone's head off or anything like that. It was a kid who got his first career sack, and it happens to be the worst sack he's ever going to get in his life. The one that he'll never want to watch again. And today he's got to deal with fans going, oh, going out to hurt people and stuff like that. Kindly go fuck yourself. Watch the play. He clearly wasn't trying to hurt anyone.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that's... Yeah, there will be folks that will probably, put blame. I didn't see too many takes on that, luckily, but absolutely, that's...
There was a large... not a large representation of the Dolphins fans, but a large enough group of the Dolphins fans who went after him that he felt like he had to come out and make a statement saying, like, I never intended to hurt him, right? That was never my intention. I was just going to finish a sack. I wish nothing but the best for him. And it's like, really? Yeah. He shouldn't need to do that. We should all have watched the play and known that.
Right.
So yeah, go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself. Indeed. On to the next game. Go fuck yourself.
On to the next game.
We already touched upon Pittsburgh Cleveland last week. So going into the next one on that, Chicago Bears able to make it happen, hold off the Houston Texans in pretty ugly game for the most part, but these are the kind of games that this Bears team has shown they could hang around, they could win. Only points in the fourth quarter were a Cairo Santos field goal with 3 seconds left to finish it off. Overall, you're looking at another sub-20 pass attempt game where he throws less than 50% completion percentage for Justin Fields. 106, at least triple digits in the yardage. Threw 2 picks, though. Davis Mills, unfortunately not a great game himself.
Our team's starting to figure him out a little bit. I feel like he is seeing a strange amount of cover 3. Which is just not something you see a ton of, right? Because usually, especially in modern NFL, you play a lot of cover 3, it vacates the middle. Right, and teams will tend to exploit that. He is seeing a strangely large amount of cover 3 with some kind of underneath coverage. And last couple games, he's looked really off. I wonder if that might be a bit of a strategy against him. I don't know. I haven't... I just noticed it in the Bears game, and then I went back to watch some of the highlights from the other game, and it was the same thing. It's just a ton of cover 3 against him. I don't know if maybe that's a thing. But the last couple games, he's looked pretty bad. Back to when I used to say Davis Mills was a shit quarterback bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it might be a growing pain sort of thing. This is, because he didn't look good at the beginning of last year. Came into it toward the second half of the season, actually looked pretty decent on a bad team. I think, it's a little bit of maybe people figuring out some tendencies, but as you're getting better, it's the ability to break old habits and tendencies, that sort of thing. I think, if, teams are calling him out, running the same defense, I think that's also something, is what you pay your coaching staff for. You got to coach them up right. If they're continuing to run that against you, it needs to be put out there. You need to start building a playbook or options, as far as plays are concerned, and focus on those through the week, making sure that when you're seeing these looks, when that's the defense they're giving you, you take advantage of it. When you're talking about the open middle of the field, I mean, that's usually, that's every check down quarterback's dream, let's just keep hitting it over the middle, little curl routes, little slants, whatever. We'll dink and dunk you down the It's not the prettiest looking football, but at the same time, so like what about that game? It was pretty football. So that's just it. You gotta. I think if you're the Houston Texans, you came off of a first game stealing a tie in a game that you really should have won, but you end up getting a tie. If you said before that game started that's what you're walking out with, you'd probably be kind of decently happy about it. It's not a loss that was expected. But yeah, since they have not looked like a good team at all. These back-to-back games, uh, they've really played poorly. So it will be, yeah, I think some growing pains there. It will be interesting to see. I think we finally saw a little bit more out of Damian Pierce. Luckily for him, as far as the running game was concerned. But yeah, I mean, you take a look at the guys he's thrown to, at least a good distribution on the targets. You could say that it's not like it's getting focused down to one guy. So he's not too predictable in that standpoint. But then yeah, you see a Brandon Cooks getting targeted 7 times, only 2 catches. Yeah, things are not going right in some aspects there. You're not able to get a guy you probably want to get quite a few balls to in Brandon Cooks. It's obviously not happening right there. So
Chris Moore was the wide receiver I was trying to think of when I was thinking of like Trent Sherfield style.
oh
Will
yeah,
catch
no,
the ball, get you 10 to 12 yards, but isn't going to bring up a
yeah,
big play. I love Chris Moore. I will say that is a dude who I think is on the underrated side in the NFL. Uh, he's only going to get you 3, 4, 5 catches a game, but he's usually going to get you 40, 50 yards out of those, right? Like you're
yeah,
very rarely going to see a Chris Moore game where it's like 4 catches for 10 yards, right? You're not going to see those kind of games. He's going to consistently get you 8 to 10, right? That's the Texans receiver I was trying to think of. I think he played a really good game in that game, by the way. I thought he was 3 catches, only 3 catches, but 63 yards. I think he was the one receiver who looked like he was consistently gaining yards for them through the air. It just kind of felt like that whole Texans offense was flat. Um, Against the Bears team that was trying to give them the game. The Bears were at, there was a college football game last weekend between Auburn and Missouri where both teams actively looked like they were trying to lose. This was a close second for two teams actively looking like they were trying to lose game. Uh, it was ugly. It was neither team wanted it. Bears took it in the end, but that this is going to be an ugly season for these teams. I think.
I
I hope y'all really watching your CJ Stroud tapes and
yeah,
your,
yeah.
your Alabama games because you're going to be drafted near there.
Hey, let's just keep it moving right on to another ugly game. Um, Las Vegas Raiders going into Tennessee and losing against the Titans. This is a game where the Titans were up 24-10 going into half. They didn't score another point, and the Raiders still lost. Damn.
Fire this man.
Damn. Who the fuck is
Fire.
Max Hollins, too? I didn't. Oh, Max Hollins. I had no idea who the fuck this kid is. He's only bright spot. Devontae Adams is supposed to be their big pickup. I love Foster Moreau and Darren Waller, but Max Hollins, 8 catches, 158, and a tutty. The only bright spot in this game for the Raiders.
Week he was good for them too. I think he had like 5 for 60 something last week. Like,
Yeah, who
Max
is this kid?
Hollins,
Yeah,
man.
all right.
Yeah. Josh McDaniels is just absolutely handcuffing this team, man. It's bad. There was a thread put out there by, I was going to say Ryan Clark too, but I don't think it was Ryan Clark. It was a former player of his. Talking about all the fucking weird things he would do as a coach and being like, this dude should not be anywhere near a coaching position in the NFL. and like saying like great X's and O's guy, right? Um, it was Tyler Columbus. Tyler Columbus, Super Bowl champion with the Broncos. Uh, Pretty decent career for him. Um, but he had some fucking weird, like apparently like he had like 24 sayings over the doors of all of the things in the, and like he would quiz you on what each one was, and you had to say
Oh,
them verbatim correctly or he'd like chew your ass out over it. And
it's like a
like
fucking mean Ted Lasso. What the fuck?
things like, so like during his exit interviews he'd spend like 20 minutes just cussing out his players on how awful they were and how fucking terrible they were. And it like, he says it got to the point at the end of his interview where he didn't even feel bad for himself, he felt bad for Josh. And he was like, are you okay, man? He's like, I'm not fucking gonna be here next year. I don't know if I'm getting fired or I'm quitting, but I can't do this, man.
Oh
Going on
god.
like a full mental fucking
Oh
breakdown.
no. Oh no.
Josh McDaniel is the perfect example of a coordinator who should never be a head coach,
Yeah.
and should only be a coordinator under a guy who can keep him away from people, because he clearly doesn't know how to interact with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
He like, I get that he knows the X's and O's very well and he's a great schemer of things, but that's so little of being a head coach,
Right.
right? Your X's and O's guys are your coordinators. As the head coach, your job is to keep the guys motivated, be able to say the right things at the right time, be able to get everybody on the same page. It's so much man management, and if you're bad at that as a head coach, you're
Yeah.
not gonna last. And oh man, reading that thread was, it just explains so much to me.
Yeah, it's kind of the endless cycle, right, of coaching in the NFL in general, right? You get successful coordinators, you get shit head coaches. Shit head coaches funnel out, good coordinators funnel in. Good coordinators don't always make good head coaches, so they're shit head coaches. Good coordinators come back up, shit head coaches out, and you just have this repeating cycle of
Yeah.
really awkward coaches, that sort of thing. It seemed like in the first few games might be the case there where he could kind of break that mold, but I feel like Mike Daniels is kind of that same guy almost. This guy is a genius as far as coordinator, working with players, specific things, really honing in on training. But that is not what you are as a head coach. You're doing a lot of other. There's so much overhead as far as like the stuff you're having to deal with as a head coach. It doesn't allow you to get into the nitty gritty like you did as a coordinator, and yeah, you might be a little lost in some of that other stuff. And you got to answer for it because
Yeah.
you're the fucking guy now. Yeah, and we talked about this last week, and I think a valid point and goes to that same thing. Some guys are just born to be those coordinators or position coaches. It's why you don't potentially have a Rich Bisaccia here, and you have a McDaniels instead. Because I feel like we all would have loved if this was ran by that guy, but
Yep.
unfortunately, it's not. And we got this guy who has failed already. Give it another chance.
He's already failing again.
Failing again.
Already looks like he's struggling for air, and the water is closing in.
I will say this. One thing you have to give, I don't have to say credit necessarily, but this Raiders team, for an 0-3 team, and this goes in, we'll talk about this game as we're talking about next week's game. I think it goes into why the line is for their upcoming game the way it is. They have lost their first 3 games against the LA Chargers, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Tennessee Titans. Now, Cardinals are kind of crap, it seems like. And Chargers are playing like crap. And Tennessee, worse than they were before. But all 3 of those games they lost. They lost that 24-19, 29-23, and 24-22. All single possession games. All games that they, as far as Arizona, they had that game won
Yeah.
and lost it. They were the only team putting up points in the second half against Tennessee here, and they could have been there with the Chargers game. Although that 24-19 is a little bit of an outlier because they were playing a little worse, I would say, than being only 5 points down at the end of that game.
Yeah.
But this is actually for the 0-3 team. You could tell there's still some talent, some stuff there for them. But it has not come together. And yeah, you can't help but look at McDaniels for that because who's leading the ship right now? And why don't they have a fucking win yet?
Again, Brian Flores still not hired this offseason.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
They're making his case very easy for him.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, yeah. But in a game that I picked I picked Malik Willis to have over 200 yards this game. If you remember me making that call, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. And yeah, Tennessee, a bit of a bounce back of sorts. You had a decent game out of Derrick Henry finally. Tannehill kind of had it together. Yeah, you get a little traction out of this. You get a little.
Yeah.
The wheels aren't completely spinning for them.
The wheels haven't fallen off the bus yet. They're stuck in the mud, but they haven't fallen off the bus.
Yeah,
you could still maybe fix this,
yeah.
but probably not.
We'll see as it goes down. One team that this did almost feel like a must win because of how tragic the beginning of their season kind of began. Kind of an extension of last season. Going into the next game, Kansas City Chiefs going into Indy and losing 17-20 against the Colts. Colts getting their first win on the season, going 1-1-1 now. A scrappy game, a game that Indy doesn't really win unless in that last drive they don't call a 15-yard penalty that, my opinion, probably shouldn't have been called against the Chiefs there. That was pretty surprising. That happens all the time, though. Yeah. People could always point to one play like that and one mistake, but overall, Indy kept this game within the score up until those last moments, that last drive. Only in the second half allowing a single field goal to Kansas City. So really impressive stuff from a Colts team that was pretty injury-ridden. I think your starting linebacker, DeForest Buckner, a couple guys out. Safety, I think, as well for
Buckner did end up playing.
Yeah, Buckner played, but he's he's hurt.
Yeah, he's not 100.
And he's been this way before. He's gotten dinged up before, but yeah, I'm trying to think of is it Malik? I can't remember the name of the linebacker they've had out for a bit. He's finally coming back this week. So this is a team that's not running at 100% to pick up this win.
Campbell also seeing limited reps.
Ah, yes. And for a team that doesn't have a lot of weapons, yeah.
Although
Pittman coming back was a nice piece for him, obviously.
Although Alec Pierce, man, looked like he might have some stuff in there. Only the three catches, but 63 yards out of it. The dude was always a big play threat at Cincinnati. If he can translate that big play ability to the NFL, all of a sudden you got a sneaky good 1-2-3 combo there with Pittman, Paris Campbell, and Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
Naheem Hines out of the backfield catching the ball pretty well for him too. It looked better, especially in a game where Jonathan Taylor didn't have the greatest game. He was okay, but he certainly wasn't Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Right. They got a lot of good out of this game. I actually really, really liked the game the Colts played here. They held incredibly strong defensively, like you said, despite a lot of that. Again, Kwity Paye looking more and more every day like a great draft pick for them. He does so much more for them than edge rushing, right? Like a lot of people looked at Kwity Paye coming out of Michigan as like pure edge rush guy. This guy's gonna get sacks and sacks and sacks. He does so much more, man. His ability to play the run and the pass. He's shockingly good in pass coverage. There was a couple times where they had him one on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who this year has been a dynamic threat out of the backfield for them, and he got one gorgeous open field tackle on Clyde Edwards-Helaire and stopped a huge gain.
Yeah.
Kwity Paye is looking like a great draft pick for them. I think he was an early second rounder for him. Coming up huge early in his young career. Yeah, a lot of good. Best game Matt Ryan's played for them. Matt Ryan was solid in there. Chiefs looked off. If the Chiefs are playing their usual Chiefs way, do they win that game? Probably, but you can only play the team that's in front of you. The Chiefs were clearly less than 100% firing in that game, and Colts took advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think Colts had a game plan going in. We're going to, and it sounds like not the thing to do because of the name, but we're going to make Patrick Mahomes beat us with his arm. That was kind of the game plan. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, outside that one touchdown that he had early, absolutely shut out on the ground. They had to go to Jerick McKinnon. He got fuck all. He had less than 3 yards of carry. Their best rusher, arguably, is Mahomes, and that was just like a couple of those just boot rollouts that he'll get every now and then. He'll have some open field and be able to take advantage of that. But they made him one-dimensional. And then you ask Patrick Mahomes to throw, and you keep him to a, 20 to 35. Not, not a great throwing percentage by any means.
Touchdown and a pick.
Bit over 250 yards. And, yeah, that's a really, really solid defensive effort on a banged-up defensive team that's getting players back healthy. For a team that really didn't look good those first 2 weeks, this is a hell of a win for them to get, and this is just the right time for them to get healthy and now start looking like the AFC South team that we expected to potentially take the division.
I will say also really quickly, man, what happened to Isaiah Pacheco? Wasn't he, out of the preseason, the guy for them, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't it supposed to be a thing, he was going to be the number one runner, whereas Edwards-Helaire was going to be a bit more of a pass option, maybe a spot runner. Pacheco was going to get them. And that first week, he ran the ball really well. I think he ended up something like 12 for 62, but he looked solid in those runs. He built into the game. It looked like he was going. The last couple weeks, he's been absolutely invisible. Only the 3 touches this week, 2 touches last week, and every time he touches the ball, he's going nowhere. They got to figure that out. Right? Because right now, they don't have a run game. Right? The run game is the checkdowns to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which can work. There's been a lot of teams in the past that have their run game has been a pseudo check-down passing game, right? You use those swing routes, those running back screens as a pseudo run game. And especially when you have a talent like Mahomes, you can make that work. But you have to decide to do that, right? You can't run the ball 40 times, or what did it end up being? 22, 23 rushes for nothing? You can't do that. They need to make a choice here relatively soon. Do we want to run the ball 23, 24, or are we one of those teams that throws the ball 45, 50 times a game? Right? Usually I say that doesn't work well, but if you do it the right way, you scheme it the right way, where, you're throwing some screens in there, you're throwing some bubble passes, things that work as essentially runs. Also, you have Patrick Mahomes. That helps. You can make it work, but they have to make a choice.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to in the moment be able to utilize, I think, either option. I think you need to have the ability to run the ball when the opportunity arises. You have a game locked down. You need to drain clock. You need to possess the ball. If they're, or they're clearly just playing your pass, and you're getting the option to run the ball for free, you got to be able to take advantage of those. And on the flip side, if they're stacking the box on you, if, you need to get yards and points, obviously, you need to have that aspect to it too. I'm worried about teams that like the running game is really a second thought. We'll get to the to another team that does that as well. Um, I don't think the Chiefs are quite that yet. We know the Colts aren't that. We know that the Colts are going to hit you with a pretty balanced attack. Jonathan Taylor is going to get his no matter what. And you're just hoping that Matt Ryan will get you enough on, the pass that he needs to make. And as you said, he looked his best in this last game. Need to make the drive down to actually get this win for him outside of, the penalty or whatever. And, for another game that it really just it was fairly low scoring, kind of grinded out. Those teams that could run the ball, that's what you need. That's what you need to win those games. Because if all of a sudden you just have Mahomes just has an off day, it's just like so much of your offense depends on that guy not having that off day. You bring up the good point of if this was your typical Chiefs team, or how they usually run their offense, that this is probably a win. I think though the Colts played it to this. I think they really want to put them in this situation to where you're gonna have to stop running the ball because it's not successful for you, and we're gonna try to make Mahomes beat us with the pass, and we'll be ready for it. And it seemed like they were. They played it very well on defense.
I think the Chiefs can run optimally. Indiana this year has done this really well in college football, where they had a game. I want to say it was against Central Michigan, one of the teams like that. A team with actually pretty decent defense, but they threw the ball I think 57 times and ran it 15. But on those 15 runs, they were able to average about 5.6, 5.7 a run.
Effective run.
Right?
Yeah.
You run it just enough to keep teams honest and run it just effectively enough to keep teams offense. You don't need to run the ball a ton.
No.
Right? And I think the Chiefs can afford to run the ball a little bit less if it makes it more successful. Right? I think the way that they ran the ball this week, where they ran the ball, I think, like I said, 25 or so times for nothing. I think if you instead run the ball 15 times, you get them overly thinking about the pass, and then those 15 runs go for 4.5 yards. Well, now all of a sudden they're way more effective than the 25 runs you had.
Yep.
Right? You can keep the ball in Mahomes' hands. He can still he can throw the ball. But at the same time, that those run plays are now burst plays that are keeping those linebackers in.
Yeah.
I think that is a way they could look to maybe move this.
Yeah. I think this is the interesting thing to take on that, though. This is a team when they're at their healthiest. Indianapolis Colts have one of the best front sevens in the league.
Yes.
For no doubt. Right there with, your Niners, your Ravens.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the thing. That's the scary part. Is this is going to be a Colts team that should, if their guys come back healthy and they come back playing they were before their injuries, absolutely dangerous. Like, because they're going to win those battles. Like, it's not like they're stacking the box on the Chiefs or anything like that to get this run stop. They're just doing it naturally. They're doing it probably with, maybe some base in there, but probably with nickel, nickel formations, because the Chiefs are spraying it out on you. So you're not going to not put 5 DBs out there. Just very impressive how the Colts are able to do that, and that much more of a dangerous team going into, past right here into the first quarter of the season or so. A team that's getting healthy in that regard, that already played it pretty well. Maybe something there. Frank Reich is going to maintain his job, I guess, for a little bit longer. As we were a little worried about him going into this game. We were a little worried about the guy. Hot seat, but he gets a great win here. The team gets a great win, and you got to feel a little bit better about this Colts team after a stumble out the blocks essentially for him.
I'll also throw it out there. Fuck, Stephon Gilmore can still play some cornerback,
Oh
man.
yes, yep, yep.
He's 32 now, and he's got some wear on that body, but fuck, he can still play some cornerback, man.
Yeah, great end of the play or end of the game.
Yeah,
Defensive play there to seal it up for the Colts there. It's yeah, the Chiefs just need to drive and get a field goal there at the end with what about like a half minute or something like that. They had
yeah,
some
it was.
time.
Yeah,
By the Chiefs standard, they had some time, but nice shutdown there from the Colts yet again. And yeah, keeps a 2017 game. Keeps that Chiefs team to only 17 points. Very impressive there. Uh, let's keep moving on to another AFC. Just a couple of the kind of juggernauts of the conference. We already hit upon one of these teams since they played yesterday. Buffalo Bills going into Miami. Miami holding on through a butt punt to win 21-19 at home. Pretty crazy game. I was able to actually catch this one from beginning to or from like second half in. Yeah, a Miami team that really looked good against a this Buffalo squad, and uh, yeah, it looked like they had it wrapped up, and then all of a sudden you're punting it out of your end zone, safety, and they were still able to hold on. It was pretty impressive by Miami on that regard.
I disagree on a lot of. I think this is a game that Miami loses every time, except for in the freak Twilight Zone era that was last week. I didn't think Miami played that great.
Uh,
I thought their defense did a good job of
their
bending
defense did a damn
breaking.
good. They held them to no points in the second half, except for a field goal by Tyler Bass and a safety punt.
They also gave up 500 plus yards.
Yeah,
They that is the kind of game you do not win very often. that the offense had its moments, but for the most part looked very out of sync. And again, a lot of that's probably on the fact that Tua was less than 100%. I feel like they got out of that game by the skin of their teeth, and they're gonna laugh about it the whole way. That's the kind of game you do not win very often. There's bend, don't break, and then there's we bent way too much and got away with it. They got away with that one.
I
I
mean,
don't think you.
stats
I don't
look
think you can
pretty
play
on
that
the
game.
board, but I mean the thing is, you have Josh Allen passing it 63 times. He throws 21 incompletions in that game.
Yes,
He like a third of his passes were incompletions in that game. That's pretty damn solid when that's all your offense. 400 yards. You held him just throwing 2 touchdowns from 63 attempts. That's pretty goddamn good defense right there. That's not just good. That's
once they
real
got
damn
away
good.
from once they got away from putting the ball into Devin Singletary to give up nothing, the combination of Josh Allen and Zach Moss running the ball was starting to get things going.
Yeah, but you get a fumble out of Josh Allen too. So you
Yeah,
give up 47
this is what
yards,
I
but you get a
mean.
turnover on him.
That Josh Allen fumble wasn't the cause of anything the defense did. Josh Allen's holding the ball like it's a friggin'
Yeah, because he's a
loaf
quarterback
of
running the
bread.
ball because he's not a running back, too.
But Josh Allen doesn't do that very often.
Well, yeah,
Josh Allen's
and I'll
pretty
say,
damn good at protecting the ball.
not like running backs don't do that. I just watched Jeff Wilson get tackled from behind and fumble the ball as well like that, and he's a running back. But
Again, I'll go back to the awful Missouri-Alabama game about running backs holding the ball properly.
yeah, no, I think this is a fantastic win for if you just looked at the stats as far as some pure offensive stats as far as yards and shit like that, you would think this was a blowout on the other side by like 21 points, right? The fact they come along, they not only got a win, the only reason Buffalo is even in this game at the end is because you got a safety punt that hit into your personal protector. Like that's kind of it.
A 2-point win and a 4-point win.
But but that's just a field goal then at that point to win the game, and you prevent them from getting that. That's huge.
It's the Buffalo Bills. A score is a score. They can get a touchdown.
They didn't
more
though,
often than not.
but they didn't.
They didn't this time. You play that same game against Buffalo 99 times out of 100, Buffalo beats you.
But this is also a Miami team that just came off a very nice offensive performance, but that was only in the second half of that game. They didn't look good in the first half of the game prior to this one, but they still had a
Don't
great
disagree.
offensive performance.
I think Miami's criminally overrated right now.
I would say they're at this time they were a 3-0 team that, yeah, clearly all the things weren't clicking on offense. At times they were. Yeah, I think you feel pretty damn good if you come out with a win. This is a win that they shouldn't have got, in a lot of regards.
I agree.
But when you come out with those,
saying,
those wins are huge down the line because who knows how these teams plays later.
As a counting win, it doesn't matter. I'm saying that's the kind of win that you celebrate that you got, but you also recognize you cannot play that game again. You also need to recognize that game cannot happen the next time, or you're getting skunked.
Well, it can't happen on one side of the ball. On the other side of the ball, can't you want that game? They
were defensively that good. Again, they got mistakes that you do not get out of this Bills team very often.
Yeah,
not forced. They were very unforced errors. Some really bad drops from wide open guys. They kept feeding the ball to Devin Singletary when they really needed to get away from Devin Singletary. There was a lot of bad things the Bills did on offense, not necessarily related to good things the Dolphins were doing on defense. And I just think this is the kind of game that, yes, you got to win out of it, and that's fantastic, but you also got to recognize it's not the kind of game you can play on the regular.
I think this was some pretty bad game planning. Whatever the hell the Bills were doing. Like, I don't care who the hell you have back there. I don't understand why Josh Allen is throwing the ball 63 times.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
That's kind of crazy, especially because you did have decent, effective running with that.
Moving the ball.
4 carries, and he had a long of 43. So really, he had 3 other carries for 1 yard apiece. So actually, just one run was effective. Singletary didn't do jack shit. Singletary didn't, and then Josh Allen, for as good as he is, and everybody fucking loves him, he still fumbled the ball because it's gonna happen.
It can happen, like, absolutely. I'm not saying that.
You just don't want your quarterback being your best runner all the time. Not like this. And this is the Buffalo team.
Would argue it works just fine for them.
Not exactly, because then it's not like Jackson hadn't got dinged up before, and they become predictable as hell on offense. And this is a team that's very predictable. Like, they don't run the ball effectively. They've done this quite often in the last couple seasons. They have weapons. I think we both like Zach Moss, Devin Singletary. Even James Cook, to an extent, I think could be a good piece for him. They don't run the ball effectively. They ask way too much of Josh Allen, both through the air and on the ground. That's a recipe for disaster, honestly. And yeah, I think if you are Miami, you can't have that kind of performance, obviously, on the offensive side. You've already shown that you could do more than that on the offensive side of the ball. Now, going forward, who knows what the fuck that offense is going to look like for sure. But that's another story.
Them for their offensive performance in this one, I think there's a lot more pressing circumstances in this one than the way that they played.
Right. But I mean, like, yeah, I suppose we're kind of making the same argument. You can't play this style and expect to win. And I think we're both saying that they are happy that they got this win.
100%.
I'm giving a lot of credit, though, to Miami, their defense being able to hold a team like Buffalo that did put up some great numbers in a lot of regards. They still held them to, honestly, only really a field goal. The safety they gave them from some pretty stupid mistakes. I mean, granted, they were pinned back. They didn't give their punter obviously enough room on the same side. That's their offense beating them again. You give your punter, you get out to the 10-yard line, you give him a little bit of a zone, give him 15 yards to be able to make that punt. You're probably not kicking it into your teammate's ass. But regardless, I mean, at home, this is a game that they were not. I pretty sure, right? They were.
They were slight
What was the
underdogs.
spread? Decent. Yeah, I think we actually had some changing lines on this. I think I first had it
Yeah,
at 4, yeah, plus 4.5. Then it was plus 5.5 by the time we were making our bets. So
yeah.
wasn't a game they were expected to win by any means. And I did not. You didn't expect this score to be it either. I think we expected
No,
more powerful offense out of both
100%.
teams. Um, but yeah, I think you're going to have these kind of games. Your offense isn't always going to be clicking. If your defense could step up and get you wins in those games, I think that's a really good sign going forward. Because yeah, not every side of the ball is going to be playing 100%. Those games where your defense is letting you down, you need your offense to be able to pick you up, and vice versa. And I think that's what this showed is
Yeah.
that when you're Miami and yeah, you're not getting it. Tyreek, Waddle, obviously not Kasicki as we brought up as he's not getting it at all. Like when that's not happening, to still be able to look pretty sound in winning in this game, I feel like they from how that defense was playing to that point that even though it was only a 4 point lead, it was going to take a lot from Buffalo to get that win at the end of the game, and then it became a 2 point lead, and it looked a lot closer. But then they still got the stop, so it's just like I was impressed that they were able to hold off as well as they could because that's the exact type of game that Buffalo could win against anybody, right?
Yes.
Is
I
oh
just
you gave us 2 points right there, we're gonna take that from you right at the end. Buffalo wins. Game-winning field goal by Tyler Bass, right? Like how many times have you seen that? But they didn't. They didn't give him that. Very impressive.
I worry that there was a lot more luck in this defensive performance
All right.
than you might be giving them credit for. I think there was a lot of bad plays by Gabe Davis that he just doesn't usually make. Josh Allen's fumbles a play he doesn't usually fumble, right? Like you these aren't things that Miami's defense did. They're things that Buffalo's offense is doing to themselves, right? I just don't think you get out of dodge with this one very often. I I didn't hate it from Miami's defense. Like I understand that you're gonna give up yards to this team, and that's fine, but they got to tighten the screws just a touch on that one. Like I said, I completely ignoring the offensive misfortunes that they had, except for the running game. Edmonds and Mostert needed to be better in that game. They did, but most of the offensive lack of synergy was largely due to things outside of their control.
Yeah. I mean, uh,
Or rather,
I
very
don't.
much inside of their control that they chose to ignore.
Yeah. I don't know. I see. Yeah, some of those stats. I think it's very concerning. You have 63 throws from Josh Allen. He's missing 21 of those. I think 9 of those were pass deflections. So it's like there's there's a lot they're doing out there, obviously, to defend against. Yeah, just an air raid that you basically get from Buffalo because they decide to just be one side on the ball right now. Um, we'll see how that goes going forward for them, I suppose. Let's see. Going on next. I had this pulled up. Ah, yes. Detroit going into Minnesota and keeping it within a score against the Vikings. Vikings ended up pulling it out though, 28-24, getting a couple touchdowns there in the fourth quarter to be able to get and keep the lead there. Um, Kirk Cousins, 24-41, 260 for a couple touchdowns. Jared Goff, 25-41 for 277, touchdown and a pick. Um, Jamal
Lions win this
Williams,
game if they're healthy, right? You lose DeAndre Swift quite early in this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down a
dinged
bit
up.
later in
Yeah.
the game. those guys stay healthy and the Lions win this. Uh, right? I mean, I really like this Lions team, like a lot. Their defense needs to tighten the screws a touch.
Yeah.
Their defense allows a little bit too much. Um, but man, they fucking play. Jamal Williams having a great game after Swift goes down. Josh Reynolds continues to be a really good third option for them behind St. Brown and Chark. He's going to have to step up a little bit more now, but I think he showed in that game that he can do that. They continue to use TJ Hawkinson well when they get down deep. He doesn't get a ton of targets, but when they're in the right areas, he becomes a big threat for them. I like a lot of what this offense is doing, despite, let's face it, in a lot of ways being handcuffed by Jared Goff, who is, though fitting in well in the system, is still just at best an okay quarterback. And that's his absolute ceiling.
Yeah.
I like a lot of it. I feel like this is a game where, yeah, they lost, but there's a lot of positives to take out of a team that loses their two best weapons and is still able to keep this game very competitive.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, a game where the books had them. What 6? Yeah. They were +6 going in. Kept it within that, obviously, as far as the spread was looking pretty good. Late in that third quarter, they're going up 24-14. And, 14 points to that point, and you're just hoping, all right, defense just needs to keep it, to one score there. And through a series of, they get the touchdown, I think a little bit of a back and forth. I think they both give up possessions. Then, very late in the fourth quarter, I believe, Lions go for a long field goal with who's their kicker? Austin Seibert, yeah. And Seibert had missed one shorter range before that, so they go with him for a longer kick with a what was that 3-point lead at that point to go up 6. Granted, you're putting yourself in a field goal doesn't tie you situation. But a touchdown and an extra point still does. So it's like late in that game, as late as it was, I think this is around 2 minutes left in the game. I'd have to take a look at the highlights or whatever. But they go for that field goal. Seibert misses another one. You set up Kirk Cousins, Vikings, with a short field. They're able to take advantage. Touchdown, and there's no time to do anything on the other side of it at that point. A little bit of, potential game mismanagement there. You punt that ball, you pin them deep perhaps. That's a whole different story. You ask Kirk Cousins, 2-minute drill, 95 yards. That's a whole lot different than Kirk Cousins, 2-minute drill, 55 yards,
Yeah. Also, Austin Seibert, usually pretty automatic, missing a couple, very concerning. Obviously, as we now learned, it's because he has a groin injury.
Yeah, it's always fucking a groin injury.
He is also going to be missing this week.
Oh, no.
The fucking Lions.
Oh, let me change my pick.
Fun team, incredibly unlucky.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he will be out with that groin injury this week. Just a tough one for him, because, like I said, you lose your top two weapons and still manage to keep that game competitive. You probably deserve better out of it. I agree with you. I'd have punted, especially knowing Seibert's got the groin injury now.
Yeah,
easy to say in hindsight. If you knew that he was less than 100, maybe the punt there's the right play. Also, you have Jack Fox, one of the best punters in the NFL. Dude who routinely pins teams inside the 20 with relative ease.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the play. Actually, almost certainly that's the play.
I'm not too sure what the fourth down distance was. I mean, if it's a reasonable, I would say if you're looking at maybe a 4th and 4 within that, I would consider even potentially going for the.
I think it was a 4th and long. I think it was.
Yeah, so that really makes it a punt. If it's within that, then maybe I would even consider going for it. Because then if you go for it, you make it, game's over. Pretty much have shut them down.
You sealed it.
But yeah, that's you know, I think yeah. If you're Detroit, you're looking at it. You're like, all right, we could go up and make them get a touchdown against us, and yeah, that's the only thing you really consider with choosing to do a field goal there. Because yeah, it's not like it was a tie game. They're going at like there's too many things to lose, and they end up losing it because of that decision. I feel plays a pretty pivotal role in it. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, um, yeah, nice to see Jamal Williams able to step in. Um, the kind of the same thing. I mean, Hawkinson gets that touchdown, 3 catches. Otherwise, 3 catches, 4 targets. It's kind of interesting. There's some of these like nice little standout tight ends that have just kind of fallen off at the beginning of this year. I would say perhaps teams are focusing more their defense on those guys, kind of knowing that they're a little bit of the safety valve potentially for the opposing quarterbacks. But yeah, kind of a little surprising in that sense that I know Hawkinson hasn't really gone off in any one of these games, even though the Lions have played pretty decently.
Yeah, I still there's still a part of me, maybe it's just the old school football side of me that likes it when you have that 6'3", 6'4" big body tight end, and you kind of save them for the red zone, right? We're not gonna throw to him at the 45-yard line and have him take those hits because we need him to be that big bruiser down in the red zone,
Yeah.
right? And we get down to the 8 to 10 yard line, and we're gonna run that. We're gonna run a curl in the middle to our big boy tight end in the end zone, and we're gonna get him the ball, right? And I feel like that's a lot of how they've used Hawkinson this year. And do I think they could use him more? Absolutely. Do I think they'll have to use him more this week without Amon or St. Brown? Absolutely. But I'm not gonna knock the idea of having him be an old school receiving tight end in the fact that, like, from from 20 to 20, he's not gonna see the ball. Inside of that 20, he's your go-to guy, right? So
Yeah.
I see the logic behind that, but they do have to use him more without him on St. Brown now.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be the case for sure for them. And then I think on the other side of the ball, you know, you got to like what you're seeing out of Dalvin Cook. I think his first game,
Yeah,
nothing. I think his second game, a little something. Dalvin Cook, Madison as his spell, doing really nice there. Touchdown for each of those two. Um, Talking about some of these, when you have a Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, those are going to be your bigger names. You're going to have some other guys step up. Saw that a little bit from a KJ Osborne. Um, a Irv Smith able to take a little bit of advantage of that as well. And yeah, in general, like everybody will look to Seibert, and then you bring up the injury, so it's like, you can't really you know, be on the guy too much. Other side of the ball, Greg Joseph just went 0 for 2 in the game for the
yeah,
Vikings. So
yeah.
just a bad day kicking in general there over in Minnesota. So yeah, like this is one that, especially against a division opponent, kind of kicking yourselves because I think they really had this game pretty well in hand. Um, and yeah, your defense just can't quite hold, but you still have the chance, and then you just like you make the one lapse in judgment as far as your play call is concerned. Oddly enough, on a field goal, but yeah, when you know that your guy's injured,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
No, I'm
you
with you on
set
that one.
yourself up, setting
I'm
yourself
with you
up
on
for
that one.
failure. Yeah, let's see. So yeah, a tough one, unfortunately. Vikings though will escape with a win in that one. Talking about uh, some teams that, well, there's no escaping in this one. I guess I was gonna try to make some weird link to Mac Jones' injury, but that's not going to work out. Baltimore goes into New England and takes the game 37-26. Mac Jones gets out of that game with a pretty bad looking injury. Ends up just being a high ankle sprain, I guess. So he's out.
Those things can still be nasty.
Oh yeah, it will linger. Looked
Really
looked
bad,
worse.
but, man, those high ankle sprains. I
Yeah.
mean, ask friggin' Eric Carlson, right? He had a high ankle sprain with Ottawa that cost him 4 months of his career.
Yeah.
Right? Like, those high ankle sprains, if you're not careful with them, can be absolutely brutal. So yeah, Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer going to be coming out. In this game, though, very, very interesting as far as the numbers. I mean, despite that injury, Mac does stay in, or stayed through the game, basically. But 22-32, 321, and that looks all well and good until you look a little bit further to the right and you see that he threw 3 picks as well. That's not that's not going to get it done. They've had some turnover issues. I think in week 1 they had Mac Jones had a pretty bad game as well in that one. Lamar on the other side, 18-29, 218. If you looked at that, you're like, that's not so good. 4 touchdowns on the 1 pick. Then also rushing the ball for 107 yards. I still like that is a great number, obviously. And you're going to, 11 for 107, touchdown. Fantastic. You need to figure out a way not to do that. You need to. I think you absolutely. There's no doubt about it. The ability for Lamar to be able to use his legs and put up stats like that is something that's going to set him apart from a lot of quarterbacks, along with being able to throw the ball like he does. No doubt. That combination of things. If you want to keep that combination of things around for as long as possible, you got to do it a little less on the rushing side, in my opinion, just because you're just talking about, these are, big-ass dudes on the other side that are going to be looking to hit you, and it's just, you're asking for a lot out of just one guy. It's like you got to get this spread out around a little bit. That being said, Justice Hill, I had no idea who the fuck that is, but he had a great game. If they figure it out with Dobbins, who I think is getting a little bit healthier now. I know he was dinged up coming into this game, right? So
yeah,
maybe gets the traction going there, and maybe they're able to utilize that aspect of their game a little bit more. For a team that we talked about before, you're not sure where the receiving options are outside of Mark Andrews, but I mean Lamar making it fucking work. So hats off to him.
Bateman and Duvernay are really having
more credit to Bateman than I would have thought. Like he's doing well.
I'm fine with 11. I think 10 or 11, I'm okay with.
True.
It's when he has those games where he runs 15 to 20 times where I start to go,
yeah,
now you're pushing it a little bit. I think this stat line for Lamar is the perfect Lamar stat line.
Just about, yeah, I would say so.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right. Somewhere between 8 and 10, 11, you're right on the borderline of that. You're fine. Rushes for the big play rushes, right? You're not running 1-2 yard plays with Lamar. He's getting the big play rushes. He doesn't have to throw the ball 40 times, right? 18 to 29, very good, accurate, succinct number, right? He's not turning the ball over. This stat line is the Lamar stat line, I think, is near optimal.
I think this is a stat line you want for him in, okay, granted, this is New England. You're going on the road. This is a game where, there might be the stakes a little bit raised, that sort of thing. I think you're playing a Sunday morning game or a Sunday afternoon game against the Houston Texans in the middle of November. I think if you could get stats otherwise outside of Lamar running it 11 times, do that.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
In games that you can win without him doing this, win it that way.
That's not a luxury a lot of teams have. I feel like it's something that this Baltimore team, they look damn good right now. So
Their defense, I'm still a little bit concerned about.
Okay.
Giving up 26 to the New England Patriots right now is something to be a little bit concerned about. This New England Patriots offense has looked dire
Yeah.
this season, and you just gave up 26 to them. A little bit of alarm bells ringing for me there.
Yeah.
That being said, all in all, I think this is a good performance. I don't disagree with you on the Lamar thing. I just think, like, in games like this, right, you're playing a pretty decent team. You know it's going to be a tough one. This stat line I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Right. 11 rushes. They were all, and especially when they're all kind of big play rushes like this, where you're getting into the secondary, right, where it's not necessarily the big guys hitting you, it's the cornerbacks getting to you, right? It's when he has those games where he runs the ball 15 to 20 times, and not all of them are big play rushes, so he's getting popped by those big linemen. That's where I get a little bit concerned about it. But this stat line, the Ravens would be fine with in games like this. But you're right. You're playing the Texans, you're playing the friggin' Jets, or a team like that, Seahawks. Maybe let's let Hill and Dobbins run the ball a little bit more. Let's try to find some other ways outside of Lamar running like this to win.
Right. And it's like you got to kind of you want to set up your whole team for success as well. I think, granted, this explosive game, a lot of points on the board, but a little concerning. You give up that many points to New England. You go with a little bit more of a measured attack that's doesn't have the explosiveness essentially of a Lamar running the ball like he does right here, and that aspect of it. But you're able to get some decent running going, more time possession, more clock off the board. Less time your defense is out there having to play defense against the other offense. You give your defense a little bit more of a chance to be able to keep a struggling New England offense from getting any traction. Very surprising to see three rushing touchdowns from New England against this Ravens team. I do really like a lot of the front. I kind of brought up that front seven of the Ravens. I think they have some good stuff there, but obviously they were a little bit exposed. And one thing I will bring up that I'm not proud of, maybe it was just, some New England coaches listening to this podcast or something like that. I was wondering, where the fuck is Devontae Parker for this goddamn New England's offense?
Oh boy, he showed up in this
Boom!
game.
They did not listen to me about Hunter Henry. They listened a little bit about Jonnu Smith. At least 4 targets for Jonnu there.
Yeah.
Henry, what the fuck? But Devontae Parker, baby. I was like, where is this guy? I know he's explosive. I see enough of him with the Dolphins. Where the hell did he go? And finally has a game. Happy to see that. I mean, one of the I think crazy how he wasn't getting more before this, given how few weapons you have on that team, it seems like. But yeah, good to see Devontae. Kendrick Bourne doing decently for that side as well. But yeah, on the other side, Bateman and Duvernay doing just enough there, taking advantage of the kind of limited targets they saw, and then Mark Andrews just being the what a funny ass Mark Andrews stat line that is. 13 targets, gets 8 catches off those, which is not fantastic. 89 yards off 8 catches, not the greatest. 2 tutties though. Hey, you'll take it.
It's kind of an interesting game, right? I think optimally the Patriots are going to be a run first team, right? I think they definitely did that a lot better in this game. They're not a team that's gonna beat you over the top more often than not.
Brian Hoyer going out there, you're gonna have to kind of become a run first team.
hey, let's not go too hard on Brian Hoyer.
Hey,
okay?
dude,
Is,
I've watched decent amount of Brian Hoyer. We have a Hoyer command in the Madden chat, and it's literally just Hoyer equals trash can, and that's all it fucking is.
Undrafted dude, man.
Yeah.
A career for him.
It's not super. It's just that's a tough one, because this is already a team that wasn't really clicking right, and you're having to walk into that situation. Good luck to you. Good luck to you there.
Yep.
Very interesting the game they have coming up that we'll hit upon.
Oh boy.
Oh, yes. But we'll keep it moving as we go through the week that was. On to the next game here. Cincinnati going into New York. And a little bit of a get-right game for this Bengals team that has now gotten right twice in a row. Cincinnati going in, taking on the Jets, 27-12. A pretty clear game from basically after the first quarter, more or less, into the second quarter, I suppose. Joe Burrow, 23-36. Not the greatest completion percentage, but decent enough. 275, though, 3 tutties. Very nice on that end. Joe Flacco on the other side, having to throw the shit out of... Dude, they're just going to use Joe Flacco's arm until this week when Zach Wilson comes back, throwing the ball 52 times. Joe Flacco has thrown the ball more in 3 weeks than he probably did for the entire half season when he's when he's been with the Ravens, right? Like, this is incredible amount of throws. Despite that, 28 throws, only 285 yards, and unfortunately 2 picks. Doesn't have that crazy stat line that he had the week prior. But this was, we talked about T. Higgins. T. Higgins did a great job in this game as well last week. But Tyler Boyd, nice little piece. And yeah, right now, it looks like, I mean, if there's a theme, if you're to take this Thursday game, you take the week prior's game into there, teams are focusing on Jamar Chase. They're really doubling that motherfucker up, dude.
Do it at your own risk, man.
Right.
They are trying everything they can to shut down Jamar Chase, and hey, go for it because this team has weapons.
Yeah.
If you really want to double up Jamar Chase and play the let's sit there and pray with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd facing single coverage on probably our second, third, fourth cornerbacks, hey, your funeral. That's the thing about having a team like this is you can't afford to do that. And we saw it the last couple weeks. Teams have done a great job of kind of denying Jamar Chase. Congratulations. You got absolutely lit up by Boyd and Higgins, but hey, yeah. Jamar Chase didn't beat you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, pick your poison sort of thing. I suppose you just see the highlight from Chase so much that you're just like, okay, we don't want to get blown up in one play. It's not quite like death by 1,000 cuts by any means, because it's not like Boyd and Higgins aren't hitting you for 56 and 45 respectively for their long plays, right? But it's just like, if we could, all right, we know he's his comfort pick. He's the number one receiver, lock down the number one receiver. And when that stops working, it's like, do you shift off that and then you start opening it up for a Jamar Chase? And perhaps play a little bit more like, softer zones or whatever to try to take care of some of the other guys? Or do you hope that you're, you get some pressure, I guess, is the other thing. You're looking at a offensive line that for the 2 weeks prior to this game had been letting up sacks. So maybe you don't maybe you don't care about covering those guys so much. We just need to get in Burrow's face. That didn't work at all. 2 sacks for the Jets in this one. Some pressures perhaps, but for the good old Bob Sala's defense, just couldn't quite get it figured out. And definitely not enough offensive power on the other side to make a dent. Surprised to see the split that Michael Carter and Breece Hall are having right now. It seems like Carter's going to get the boatload of the carries, kind of like based on the 2 games prior, and then this game he's getting a little bit more. Maybe they're just easing Breece into this one because this is like a little bit more of a 50-50 split. I think it's a dynamic player that you should consider a little bit more in your offense, and maybe that's the plan.
100% agree. I
Um,
feel like Grease is the one who seems to make the plays more often.
yeah,
Carter, he doesn't lose you yards very often, but he's also, like, to me, it looks like when they get the ball in Brees Hall's hands,
yeah,
he's the guy who can make that play happen. Whereas Michael Carter, I never really see that same oomph out of.
right.
So I'm with you. I'm kind of surprised to see the split continuing, right?
Yeah,
You'd figure, maybe the first couple weeks, okay, let's split this a little bit, kind of see how Brees Hall adjusts to the NFL, but it looks like he's adjusting quite well and could probably use a few more touches out of
yeah.
the backfield because when he catches the ball, he's making plays. When he gets the ball from the backfield, he's finding yards, and it's just you got to start getting him a bit more consistently in his hands, I think. Because this isn't a team that has a lot of big play players.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of interesting. I do like you kind of take a look further down the stat line. They did get Brees Hall involved in the passing game.
Yes.
It's this catch at 53. They're another good rookie. I think we both feel Garrett Wilson getting 6 catches for 60 yards. Both got 11 targets in that game, so they're looking their way. Looking the young guys' way. It's not like Elijah Moore is too old in that regard either. And yeah, I don't know. Like pieces, I like Uzama since coming over again. Another tight end that goes from one team, basically from the other side from Cincinnati, who they just played, comes on to this Jets team, and Conklin's the one getting all the receptions. What the hell is this? Why did we lose Uzama from the Bengals? What happened? What was this? We're all not? Why?
Especially because I figured they brought over Uzama to be their red zone threat, right? Because Tyler Conklin's never really been that guy for them. He's a guy who's a good bulk yards, gonna gain yards through the air for you, but he's never really been that red zone threat. Uzama last year for the Bengals was an awesome red zone threat for them. Was a guy who, wasn't catching the ball 8 to 10 times a game. He was only getting his few catches. But when he caught them, it was usually in the red zone, and it was usually for 6 points. And so they bring him in, and I'm thinking, this is going to be a great 1-2 pair. Conklin's your guy in the middle of the field, gain you bulk yards, you get to the red zone, boom, there's Uzama. This is going to be a great... And that catch last game was his first catch of the season.
Crazy.
I don't really get why you pick up Uzama if he's not that guy. Because Tyler Conklin's not that guy. Tyler Conklin's not your red zone, in the 5-yard line and closer kind of guy who's going to make that big body catch. I like Tyler Conklin. I think he does a lot of things well, but he's built like a wide receiver in a lot of ways. Whereas Uzama's got that more natural tight end build. He's got some bulk to him.
Yeah.
I wonder why you bring him in if that's not the role.
I mean, yeah, I guess the only thing to look at is like we'll see, and this like right now we're hitting the point where I feel like teams should start having a little bit more of an idea of like what their identity is, who's going to be their players that they're looking toward as far as how their offense runs, who's their strong defensive players, that sort of thing. I think this is game 4, quarter into the season. This is when you really have to start figuring that stuff out. You wonder, Uzama coming over into the system. I know Conklin wasn't here last year. Was he still with the Vikings last year?
He was with the Vikings.
So, but a veteran, right? A little bit more of a vet. Uzama has been around, but really only with the Bengals, I believe, as far as his career was concerned. So, I don't know. Maybe just a veteran that's able to get grasp of the offensive system, not necessarily even the catching or running routes, maybe just the whole thing. Like, this guy's really maybe not the frame for it, the build for it, but he's effective in our pass blocking schemes, in running his routes effectively, doing what we ask. Like, I guess there's all those questions to answer, and you'll see. This is as much as like week 3 kind of like are some of these teams actually gonna be able to play. For a team like Indy, like it kind of felt like, ooh, they really need to like get this game, potentially steal this one, and they did, and it feels really like that could turn their season. It's curious, like I wonder, like game 4, I would feel like this is when you start to have an established kind of identity for your team, and if Uzama's not part of that, like you said, what the hell you bring him in there for? You paid him a
I
decent amount of money to do it too.
I thought he and Conklin were just like, I was like, yes, that is such a great 1-2 pairing. I see exactly what you're doing. Conklin's your between the 20s guy. He's gonna pick up your bulk yards. You get down deep, boom, big body Uzama in there, right? I saw it, and it's not how it's gone. Now you can argue that part of that might be just you have Flacco under center. You're not throwing the ball in the 20 all that often. Maybe when you get Zach Wilson back, somebody that you might be a little bit more comfortable with, or at least you want to see if you're more comfortable with. Maybe that passing attack begins to get a little bit more dynamic than just, you know, look for one or two guys and I guess just throw the ball to those guys like crazy. Maybe you start to see that expand a little bit more now with Wilson back. We'll see, but yeah, I very confused by that. One more thing I want to touch on in this game. How good of a field goal kicker is Evan fucking McPherson that he misses a 48-yard field goal and everybody thinks the sky is falling?
Right. Yeah. And then I think last night he put through a 57, 56 yarder.
56.
No problem. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
9 of 11 on the season. One of his misses was the laces in kick, which was a fucking disgrace.
Yeah. That thing.
And the other one's a 48-yarder that he hooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's good. Trust me, relax.
Yeah, kicking, like, yeah,
Not
there's
fair.
that's
not fair.
it's a rough, yeah, that's a rough gig, dude. Because yeah, all eyes, and it's a whole operation. There's a lot of things that go wrong outside of your control, but if you don't make it, hell, yeah, you're like hell if you get it much of a leeway, right? We've seen veteran known kickers. I think we saw, I mean, earlier this season, the Rodrigo Blankenship, right?
Yeah.
What? Like, I understand he had like a couple bad games there, but a couple bad games for, like, all right, yeah, but we'll see as they go forward. It's a interesting with the position right now. I always felt like there was like always a good amount of veteran kickers, and granted, it's not like we're in the age of the Vinatieri and that sort of thing being around. So some of those guys, but I think Robbie Gould's our oldest kicker in the league right now. I knew he was pretty damn old, but like I didn't think he was the oldest. But I believe he's the oldest kicker in the league right now. But then yeah, you have those veteran names like Greg the Leg and that sort of thing. Evan McPherson, young as fuck, second year in, like you'd have this guy this is the guy you have in your franchise until he wants to retire. Keep him out there for 15 years. Why the fuck not? I don't see why you wouldn't if you were the Bengals. And unless, yeah, he starts really like shanking 40-yarders all of a sudden, like out of nowhere. I think I agree. It's really funny when people panic over a 40+ yard miss one time.
Yeah, one time. And well, a prime example of that is the Lions kicker this Sunday is going to be Dominic Eberle, who has played one NFL game, went 2 of 3, missed a kick from 52, cut.
That's
fucking wild.
I mean, yeah. But yeah, I suppose in this one, this was a score you'd expected from the outset. Looking into this game,
we talked way more about this game than I thought we would, to be honest.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that's fine. Hey,
but the Jets are a very interesting case right now of a 1-2 team that looks like they have some good pieces, and there's that front seven. By the way, Joe Mixon was shut down in that game. That Jets front seven can fucking play. Yeah,
I love Franklin Myers. I love a lot of those pieces. Absolutely, I've been a big fan of them.
And you got Sauce Gardner back there, who, by the way, we talked about shutting down Jamar Chase. That was a lot of Sauce Gardner doing that.
Wow.
Dude's the real deal.
Really? Wasn't Mosley on him?
No, they had Sauce Gardner on him.
Wow. Very nice. Jeez.
They've been playing Sauce on the top guys. Impressive.
Yeah, Quentin Williams, I think he's a fucking stud out there. Um, you even got I love Franklin Myers. Uh, yeah, even like a Sheldon Rankins, old vet right there. Like,
Yeah.
love to see it. So yeah,
There's a
right there
lot of
with you.
good pieces there. You wonder, is it all gonna click? And maybe it is Zach Wilson, right? I think there's a lot to like about Zach Wilson as a quarterback. I think, you can look at the numbers last year and go they were rough, but man, he did not have much to work with. I think there might be a little something for him to work with this year. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how the Jets offense moves in the next few weeks.
Zach Wilson, upstanding kid. Really gives to the elderly. Really, really promotes. Good. He's a good mama's boy, mama's friend's boy. Everybody loves Zachy Will. Everybody.
Listen, they're trying to reach a new demographic in the NFL. I think he can be the face of that demographic.
And yeah,
right? The 35 to 48 women, man. Like that's Zach Wilson's got that demographic on lock.
The commercial potential going forward for the kid.
Oh yes.
Hope he sticks around in the league. That would be great. I will say, for them going forward, we've been seeing a lot of Joe Flacco out of him. Brought up to Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson will be starting for this next game for him. So a little bit different look potentially from this team. We'll see if a guy like Uzomah is able to go off. Maybe all of a sudden it takes, it takes Zach Wilson, to realize, hey, I got this big ass tight end we're paying a lot of money to. You want me to throw him the ball every now and then? Yeah. Might work out for him. Let's keep it moving since, we did talk quite a bit about that game.
Yeah.
NFC East showdown this is the funniest. If you take a look at the like quarter by quarter score, like breakdown, like 24-8, by the way, Eagles over the Washington commies visiting. Eagles scored 24 points in the second quarter. No points were scored by either team in the first quarter. So it's a 24-0 going into the second half. Nobody scores any points going to the third quarter. And Washington just kind of gets a garbage. They get that safety and then, a touchdown and failed 2-point. This was like the weirdest absolute blowout you've ever seen. With the weird score to go along with it. I think this was a scoregami, I believe. If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was.
And
no, it was not.
Oh,
no,
it wasn't.
No, it was not. If they had, it was 24-8 had happened once before. The scoregami on this was 24-5.
Oh, and that was predicted because field goal for Washington.
The field goal for Washington was where we needed the scoregami. 24-8 had happened once before.
Just a weird score, weird game. Jalen Hurts, 22-35 for 340, 3 tutties. Damn, if he's not looking
is he in the MVP race right now? He has to be. Right?
Oh, absolutely, he has to be now. Like if people were doing early,
he was an interesting,
just crazy
bet on the MVP race because he didn't have huge odds. Like he wasn't ridiculously long odds, but I think it was like plus 1100 or plus 1200. And he was one of those plays that I heard a lot of people going for, and I was like, I want to see it. Like, I don't necessarily disagree, but I want to see it.
Yeah.
Boy, are we seeing it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz.
This was like they just never
inaccurate.
I mean, they just never. This team just didn't get anything going. I mean, Scary Terry at least over 100-yard game. They're at least targeting him.
He's fucking so good, and can we just get him a good quarterback, please?
Right.
Like, God, we just get Scary Terry a good quarterback and let him go off?
Yeah.
Because, honest to God, I truly believe Terry McLaurin is could easily be talked about amongst the top 5 wide receivers in the league. Easily. The thing that's held him back for years is playing with the freaking doldrums that the commies have been bringing in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, man, this one was you could see, like, a lot of checkdowns to McKissick. That's why he has so many, He's getting 9 targets. He's getting 6 catches, but abysmal average for the most part. Again, they got Logan Thomas. That guy's seeing 3 targets in a game. You threw the ball 43 times. He sees the ball 3 times as far as targets, gets 2 catches out of it. It's good for Terry. Curtis Samuel still gets 7 catches, but he's averaging 6.9 a catch. Like, it's weird how, like, Carson had these pop-off, like, touchdown and yards games early on, but we kind of knew that was a mirage. That was, like, it's there, but it's not. Like, yeah, he got those stats. It's really nice, and he's a touchdown leader after a couple weeks, but really, when it comes down to it, you're gonna see this game out of him. Are you that happy that you paid all this money to get Taylor Heineke? Could have done this for you.
Yeah, you know what the scary thing about Carson Wentz is? You're not going to see this game out of him as the game's
He'll have 2 picks.
It's going to get a lot worse.
He'll have a couple picks and maybe a really bad fumble.
He didn't throw the ball to the other team this time.
Yeah.
It's only getting worse from here, guys.
Yeah.
Enjoy the ride. Season the means of production in Washington.
Other side of the ball, I will say, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, it's looking like that little 1-2 they put together with Brown coming in. Sheesh. And then, Goddard doing exactly what you want him to.
Yep.
Inside the 20s, like you're talking about. Get him the ball. Put it up there. High. Get your guy up there. And then, it'll hurt, I believe, even though they have shown they have a lot of flexibility in how and who they use as far as their running game is concerned. I think Boston Scott got dinged up in this one. I don't know if he's going to actually be in for the next one. I like Boston Scott, so it sucked to see him get dinged up there. But Sanders
expected to miss the Jags game.
Yeah, Sanders looks like with Gainwell, maybe a little bit of Pascal, that sort of thing. But actually Pascal's a wide receiver. That's maybe on some sweeps or something like that. But that's unfortunate for them, but I mean this Eagle team looking pretty nice.
Yeah, a lot of positives for the Eagles. You might look at the 24 points in the second quarter and nothing else and go, oh well, they let the foot off the gas a little bit, right? They played a very conservative second half. Let's not turn the ball over. Let's not do anything stupid.
And you keep them in front. Just keep them in front of you. Don't let something stupid happen. And great game.
It was just a solid game from the Eagles, who, by the way, class of the NFC right now. By a long way, it looks like. The NFC looks really weak, and the Eagles look really good.
It's... there's nothing I could really disagree with that. Again, just like early on here, we'll see. Because, I think you could always made the argument, like, early on, Minnesota's playing surprisingly well, but we all know who Kirk Cousins is.
We know who Kirk
Cousins. New York Giants are, without a loss, but we know who Danny Dimes is.
Danny Dimes, baby.
Green Bay is on the upswing after week 1, but that offense is fucking abysmal for some reason.
Man, it's bad.
Tampa Bay, but they've looked really bad. So
they were the worst 2-0 team I've seen in a while, Tampa Bay.
And then you have the Niners, who should be a 3-0 team, have found every way to be a 1-2 team. And Eagles are absolutely through 3 weeks and for the foreseeable future. That's your top dog in the NFC, no doubt. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I mean, I think we saw glimpses of stuff like this from Jalen, but I didn't expect it this quick, honestly. I was very surprised by everybody. Everybody was very hype on the Eagles. This was, the hype offseason, up-and-coming team, and I agree that they were going to be a lot better, obviously. You can't I don't feel like you could add some of the pieces they did and not get a little bit better. But to the degree that they have and how effective it looks like that offensive is, man,
Yeah, I wasn't ready to
scary.
crown them until I saw it, but they're looking like they're going to be tough to beat in that NFC, especially by just a very mid conference beyond them.
Right. Let's keep it moving. Actually, wow, we are. We've gone for a bit here. All right, we are. Let's keep on going with the games. We got 7 more to cover this week. Okay. New Orleans going into Carolina. Carolina actually being able to hold this one off. This was another. What the hell happened to Jameis Winston? I thought he was going to stop. Thought he was going to stop doing this. Then again, he did get injured in this game. And I believe he's going to be out for next week, if I'm not mistaken.
It does sound like Dalton is
Andy Dalton. Oh, boy. But yeah, Jameis going 25, 41, 353 yards, but a touchdown and 2 picks. Carolina, on the other hand, Baker Mayfield, 12 for 25 for 170, but a tutty, no picks. Really, people will look at this. Christian McCaffrey, obviously, coming a little bit more into some old form. On the other side, you gotta love what you're seeing from Chris Olave for the Saints. Hell of a game, 9 catches, 147 yards in that one. Targeted 13 times, so they're looking his way.
Yeah, there's not much. Both these teams are bad, right? Like, what we're learning here, like, Jameis looked so good before that injury last year, but he's just back to the turnover machine, right? And if he's going to be the turnover machine, the Saints are bad and the Panthers are bad. It's just 2 bad teams.
Yeah.
Panthers get the win. 50-50 flip on this one, right? If they played each other 17 times in the year, I think they both go, like, one would go 9-8, the other go 8-9, right? It's just 2 bad teams who played each other. Olave looks really good. Nice to see Christian McCaffrey back. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. We'll keep moving then. Jacksonville going into Los Angeles.
I got a lot on this one.
And absolutely shocking us all. 38-10, handling the Chargers. This was just kind of like right. Nothing actually put up in the first quarter. Right at the beginning of the second quarter, Jax finally put up a field goal, but came out the gates that second quarter 16-7. All of a sudden, you're going to the half down 9, and you're not too worried. But then coming out in that third quarter, making that Christian Kirk investment pay off a bit. And yeah, this game ran away from the Chargers just kind of suddenly, I feel. And then by the time you looked in the fourth quarter, you're down 3 scores, and now the Jags put up a 4th one on you, and you're down 4. And it was just like that was incredible. Did not expect it by any means. They can't find a way to run with Austin Eckler anymore. I guess the Chargers, they just don't care to do that.
I mean, I know he didn't start out the greatest, but 4 touches. Austin Eckler's a good running back.
Yeah.
And Justin Herbert's clearly not 100%. Why is he throwing the ball 45 times? Why did a lot of things in this game happen? Trevor Lawrence was good in this game. The 3 touchdowns obviously stand out.
Yeah, very efficient. 28, 39, 262, 3 tutties. Very nice.
This game was won by James Robinson.
Right.
They couldn't stop him.
Yeah. Yeah, he was looking great. And Travis and Etienne, he just as serviceable. I mean, not the prettiest stat line, but hey, 3.5 yards of carry. 3.5 yards of carry. Guess what that gets you if you get 3 carries? A first down right there. That's all you need right
Yes,
there.
it
3.5.
does.
That's the beauty of it.
He's that big bruiser back for him, right? Travis Etienne is not the pretty back that James Robinson is. Especially, he's not the biggest guy in the world, 5'10", but 5'10", 215, man. That dude's shaped for running through dudes. And you combine that with James Robinson, who's just a big play machine,
Yep.
and that backfield works for them, and it's made Trevor Lawrence's job. You know what it's done is it's taken away the issue of the Jaguars' offensive line a little bit, which is still kind of bad. But if you can start moving the ball forward with the running game, right? If you got two running backs who can do what Etienne and Robinson can do, in spite of some missed blocks from time to time, some not great line play from time to time, that's going to buy Trevor Lawrence time that your line can't.
Right.
Right? And that's what's happening. Trevor Lawrence is getting a little bit more time back there. And it's like I said a couple weeks ago, Trevor Lawrence cannot miss. Like, he is that guy. He just is. He hasn't shown it in the NFL, but that's largely because he hasn't had the chance.
Yeah. So I'll pose this question to you, and it'll be a two-sided question. This will be typical. We're going to like typical like ESPN or whatever like sports talk show question right here. Is it time to hit the panic button for the Chargers? And
Absolutely hit the panic button
and is it time to buy in on the Jags actually being a decent team?
Okay, I got
Two
this
part.
answer. Ready?
You got this.
Ready? Two parts. No and no.
All right.
The Chargers are dealing with a franchise quarterback who's clearly not 100%. Herbert's ribs were clearly bothering him in that game. He was not looking like he was having fun throwing that ball. He was missing guys. He was not doing well. If Justin Herbert's better, you're okay there. Run the ball a little bit more. That concerns me a little bit, but outside of that, I'm not concerned there. Jags catch the Chargers at the right time, and they just catch wind, and it kind of rolls downhill on that one. That's great. This is still a team that in week one looked very bad against the commies.
Yeah.
Settle it down a little bit on a couple wins. The Colts win is just them beating the Colts. The Chargers win is impressive, but I'm not ready to buy in on the Jaguars yet. I need to see it sustained.
Right.
If they come out and get skunked by Philadelphia this week, all this good press is for nothing.
Crazy game though. Crazy cool game that like
it's a very fascinating one, isn't it?
You take a look before the season starts, week 4. Oh, Eagles Jags. Like you would give a shit. I didn't give a shit. I was like, what a throwaway game. Like Eagles are look like a good team. Jags look like shit. That's gonna be a blowout. This has some intrigue to it now. This ends up being one of the. A little bit interesting. It ends up being one of the better games to take a look at for this upcoming one. We'll talk about that on our picks. One thing I will say, just ending on the last note here, and I think Chargers are a shell of themselves right now. They got to figure it out. What's very, very nice for me to see, and we gave them a lot of shit for it, because what the Jags did this offseason was spend a shitload of money, and we had no idea what the hell they're going to make of it. Zay Jones, Christian Kirk being two wide receivers they spent the money on. Zay Jones being a Raider who was a decent piece there, but nothing like outstanding. Christian Kirk being the second option for the Cardinals, but being paid like a number one receiver basically. This game, 16 catches on 20 targets, combined for like 150 plus yards, 2 touchdowns. It's nice to see they actually getting some investment on that, or return on their investment on that. Let's see if that continues here, obviously. But just want to kind of point that out. I was pretty impressed that, 10 catches for Zay Jones, 6 for Christian Kirk, both putting up some decent enough yardage and a touchdown each. Like, that's, with this run game playing the way that it is, recipe for success. And this defense is looking fantastic. Honestly, outside of that commies game, they're looking really nice on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Obviously, the shutout, right? They came off a shutout against the Colts, so it's going to be a little skewed because of that. They're going to look a little better because they completely shut out the other team their last game. But yeah, impressive.
I will say with their defense, I'm still a little bit worried about their lack of a pass rush. Right. Only the one sack on a Justin Herbert who looked very immobile at times.
Yeah.
I think Smoot got in the backfield there once. They're doing a good job. They did a great job of containing the run and forcing the pass. I still would like to see them find a way to get to the quarterback a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think you have to get to the quarterback a little bit more. That being said, Devin Lloyd is looking like a fantastic draft pick for them. He was a guy who they took in the first round, right? And took him late in the first round, and we said the whole first. We said it. I think I had him going like 17th or 18th. You had him going earlier too. Flipped. Fell right into the Jaguars' lap at the end of the first round.
Yeah.
And was the rookie of the month for the NFL this month, and has looked awesome. And we talked about it with a lot of teams. That linchpin in the middle of your linebacking core is such a big piece, and Devin Lloyd looks like he could be that guy for them in that defense. That's a huge win for them to get him. Yeah, great draft pick.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we both saw him kind of slip in there. And yeah, somebody in that safety position, middle linebacker, those guys that are able to kind of command your defense, as important, I feel like, as a quarterback can be on the other side of it, for sure. Let's keep it moving as we got a few more games to take care of here. This one, just a couple things I'd want to point out on this one, but the Los Angeles Rams going into Arizona and taking care of business, 2012. Arizona never was really in this game, despite what that score might tell you as being within a possession.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, 37 of 58 for 314, throwing the ball 58 fucking times. 21 incompletions. Yet again, another 21 incompletion game. Justin Fields doesn't throw 21 passes in a game.
Justin Fields hasn't thrown 21 passes this year.
These motherfuckers are throwing that many incompletions in these games. Matthew Stafford
some MP over there.
Matthew Stafford almost having one of those games on the other side. 18 for 25 for 245. Both these guys having 0 touchdowns or interceptions. A little bit of a step forward, I guess, for Cam Akers getting some of the maybe more regular touches. Nothing crazy remarkable about this game other than the 2 mats on the kicking side. Perfect as far as the field goals were concerned. So, can't hate the kickers on this game at least. That's what we were talking about before. Anything you want to point out in this game?
The Cardinals stink, and they need to freaking get rid of Texas Tech man, who I'm blanking on, or this is only going to get worse.
Oh, Jesus, who the hell is that coach?
Now you're blanking on.
Fuck! Oh, why do I not remember that? Oh, no, he's already fired at this point.
He's fired in our minds.
He's fired in our mind. I can't remember the motherfucker. Kingsbury? Cliff
Kingsbury.
Yes. All right. I got it back. Oh, that took a minute. This team needs to start getting it going. Hollywood Brown had some decent stats in this game, yardage-wise, but yeah, they put up some yards, but they kicked 4 field goals. What would you do? This Cardinals team looks worse than I thought they were going to be for sure this year.
And I wasn't even that high on the Cardinals, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
I thought the Cardinals were going to be 10-7, maybe.
I thought this is an absolutely competitive team for the wild card, for sure. I'm worrying about that now.
I think getting to 9 wins for this team might be a success the way they're playing.
One team that might have a better chance at this, making the playoffs. We'll go into the next game. Atlanta going into Seattle, going into the 12th man, and getting the dub 27-23, making it happen. Yo, Cordero Patterson's going to defy time. And this dude's going to be run the ball at 40 years old. I tell you now. He's only like 31, right? He's not that old.
Yeah,
but
he's not that
it's
old,
it's
yeah.
still very impressive to see a guy who's like made the transition that he has and runs as effectively as he does at a position right now. I guess because that transition came later on. He's at an age that you don't see super good production out of the running back spot. But Patterson's showing that right now. So, got to imagine pretty happy with a nice dub there on the road.
Finally got the ball to Kyle Pitts. It's this
That's
crazy
true. Yes.
concept I have in my head where you throw the ball to this really good receiver and good things happen. I liked a lot of it. Mariota's got to stop with the interceptions. I feel like he's doing a lot of things well, but early in games especially, he is really trying to force balls into places. Gotta stop with that. You have some actually decent weapons across the board.
Yeah.
Right? If it's not there, flick one over to Cordero Patterson, see what happens. He can usually make something happen out of it. You got Drake London, you got Kyle Pitts. Zacchaeus is a steady hand. You don't need to force the ball into places, right? Find your guy. It's only early in games. As the game goes on, he tends to get a little bit more consistent.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And
that's my biggest thing.
I will say, yeah, and when you're throwing the ball only 20 times, you can't be making one of those a turnover.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're going to, and it seems like Atlanta is going to stick to a 50-50 style offense for the most part. Like, they're really going to try to mix it up. I think it's a great thing for them going forward. I think you're going to find some success there. You give opportunities for your guys like London and Pitts in, better situations if you're working off play action, that sort of thing. But yeah, you can't be having those kind of picks. And then, just one of these other crazy games right here on the other side. Geno Smith throwing the ball 44 fucking times for the Seattle Seahawks. 2 touchdowns and a pick. So,
I will tell you right now, that stat line's incredibly misleading.
Exactly. Yeah.
Geno Smith was terrible from halftime on.
Yeah.
He looked really strong early in this game. Falcons defense tightened the screws on him, and they realized that they weren't going to get the ball to Rashad Penny as much as they probably should have, given that Penny was running the ball pretty well. And they said, fine, throw it like that. That stat line is very misleading.
Yeah.
He did not look great. And, another tight end who's just not getting the uses he should. No Fant.
Nothing.
He is by far your third best receiver. You can argue he's right there with Tyler Lockett, right? And he's just not getting the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think it's a team that's really, it just seems like they're scrambling on as far as their offense is concerned. Like, some of these numbers, you take a look at them in a vacuum, and they don't look terrible. Like,
very misleading numbers.
Exactly. Geno's looks decent enough. Rashad Penny's numbers look decent enough. Lockett and Metcalf. But it's like everything when they happen. And are you actually getting points out of this? Didn't score any points in the fourth quarter. Neither team scored any points in the fourth quarter. Only points you scored in the entire second half was a field goal. It just,
I think it was a Jason Myers field goal on their opening drive of the second half, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, maybe.
It was their first drive of the second half. They kicked the field goal. They didn't even come close to seeing points again.
Yeah.
As that game progressed into deeper and deeper waters, Geno Smith looked way over his head.
Yeah, you take a look, actually, that's a great point. You take a look at that drive. It's a damn near 7-minute drive.
Yeah.
13 plays, 68 yards, and a field goal, which it's points, but in a game where it was as as tight as it was, that gets you the lead. You need more of those, and when those aren't coming in the fourth quarter, and you're going, 3-and-outs, then it starts to. And neither team did much obviously in the fourth quarter, but at that point, Falcons already had the lead,
Yep.
and you're not seeing it from Geno Smith on the other side to be able to win that game for you. The exact same thing we were talking about with your Teddy Bridgewaters or whatever. These are guys that are good, serviceable quarterbacks, and in the right situation, you'll be fine and you'll win games with them. You won't win games because of them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Keep it moving. Oh, and this one, oh yeah, talking about the class of the NFC. Oddly enough, two teams that are on the higher end.
Part of it.
They're on the higher end of the NFC, but they did not look
such a bad conference.
They did not look very good in this one. Green Bay going into Tampa Bay. Battle of the Bays, 14-12 was the ender on this one. Green Bay didn't score a point beyond the first half. Tampa Bay can't do anything but kick field goals and then one very, very too late touchdown in garbage time. This game was essentially a 14-6 game until the very, very ends of it.
What
Bad.
the fuck has happened to Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon the last couple weeks?
They're trying. It's a crazy stat line. Both 12 rushes, both 3 yards or under a carry. No touchdowns. Fumble loss from Aaron Jones. I remember that Aaron Jones fumble being a little, was he? I don't think he was loose with it, right? It was more of a kind of punch out situation.
Was,
can't remember if it was a punch out or something.
He had it pretty tight, and then I think he gets wrapped up from behind, and when trying to get extra yards, he kind of falls forward a bit, and it opens up that little crease behind where that punch out comes through.
There we go. Yeah.
I don't think it was one of those fumbles that you look at and go, you did something terribly wrong here. Just one of those freak plays that doesn't very often.
Yeah.
I will say, Romeo Doubs looking like he might be the Packers guy this year. We said it, the Packers need to find out who that guy is. Early in this game, Aaron Rodgers was specifically looking at Romeo Doubs. That was his guy. He had decided that very early in this game. I don't know if maybe they had a couple good sessions in practice over the last couple weeks and he was starting to feel comfortable with them. I don't know what it is, but that's what I'm going to be looking for over the next. Is that his guy? Has he decided that that's his guy? We'll see. They need to find out who it is because it's certainly not Randall Cobbs.
Right.
And Lazard is very much proving that he is a very good second or third option on offense, right?
Yeah.
You need somebody.
I can't remember. Oh, yeah, sorry. I was going to say, that's a great point, and it reminds me, someone said this in the post game for this game. I thought it was a really good point. And obviously, it's just personnel-wise. Tampa Bay was without a couple of they were without Godwin, without Evans.
Yeah.
So two of your main targets for Brady, targets that Brady more or less trusts. They had to bring in Cole Beasley, who then just immediately played, and they tried to get it to him, actually. 4 targets for him. Russell Gage getting 13 looks. That alone is pretty apparent to, where this team was offensively. Russell Gage should not be getting 13 looks on your offense unless they're really scheming for him to be the guy to get 13.
Yeah.
But he's your number one. And not, had the fumble loss, had a touchdown, but still only 7.3 a catch, and really being one of your only consistent effective tools there. So for Brady and those guys, they're having to get these guys back, obviously. The suspension, all that shit, Godwin. So they'll have to get those guys back for this team to look a little bit better than they did in this game. But for Rodgers, like you brought up to a good point, it's all about whatever chemistry they're able to build as this season goes on. Because, he's having to deal with, guys that are just getting into the system right now for him. And yeah, it looks like Dobbs are, Dubes. I always was thinking it was Dobbs, like Romeo. Yeah,
I do think it's Dobbs, but it makes me want to say Dubes.
Dubes. All right. Uh, but yeah, I think he's, yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't keep looking that guy's way just to give yourself the options. I mean, actually decent spread as far as some of these receivers for
And they finally
Rodgers.
started incorporating Tunyon again.
Yeah,
Right. The average isn't going to jump off the page at you, but it never is going to with Robert Tunyon. He's your safety valve. Tunyon's your. It's 3rd and 5. He will get you 6.
all right.
It's 3rd and 10. He will get you 6.
Yeah.
Right. He's not a guy who's going to break off big plays, but not every guy on your offense needs to be. He's a great safety valve for them, and I'm glad to see them starting to implement him again.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Dobbs is your guy, and he proves that he can be that guy, he looked very good in this game, and if he can keep doing that going forward, that could be the thing the Packers need to finally start looking like a semblance of the Packers again.
A little bit. Yeah, and yeah, they got to figure
really
out that
right
they got to figure out that run game. Like, yeah, it's weird.
I gotta believe Dillon and Jones get it back on track.
Right.
Because there's a track record here of running the ball a certain way. Couple bad games, I'm not ready to write them off quite yet. And, yeah, to put it nicely, they have the right game this week to get it back on track. So,
Potentially. Yep. That'll be an interesting one. That spread's interesting too. We'll keep it moving, and we'll keep this one quick because I could probably rant about this game for like a fucking half hour just on its own, at least. Just me. Craig doesn't speak one word. I would go off. The San Francisco 49ers go into Denver, and they lose game 11-10.
oh,
And
somehow not a scoregami.
not a scoregami. Could have been. It should have ended on some wacky score. I feel like wackier, but yeah. Main takeaways from this. There's a lot of takeaways. Main ones: Trent Williams going to be out for another 3 to 4 weeks, I believe. The left ankle. This is a team that, like, people talk about Trent Williams being the best left tackle. I think I've actually heard, and I feel like it's applicable in this situation. Trent Williams might be the overall best player in the NFL. In general. He does, and I worry. I worry a lot for how this team and this line responds going forward to not have Trent Williams for the next few weeks. To have Jimmy Garoppolo now back there. And for that situation not to like completely fall apart. This one was a very, very, very ugly loss. And you hope that you get some guys that are able to step into a position that you really hope wasn't going to be the case as far as your left tackle is concerned. And man, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to take out of this game. Neither team looked good offensively. Both defenses actually did look pretty goddamn good. I will admit that. Niners defense kept the Niners in that game for as long as they could, really, until the very end. And Russell Wilson was finally able to do some Russell Wilson things, got them a touchdown late. And this was the Niners team that just it was a couple plays. They were already falling back, and Jimmy Garoppolo actually gets a nice little shovel pass up to Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson damn near gets him a first down on like a 2nd and 15. and he fumbles the ball as he's getting tackled and gives up the game right there. So it was just a hard one to watch in general. Um, yeah, I keep going. And I went too long right there, anyways.
No, no, no. I get
I'm
it.
so pissed about this
shocked you
game.
were able to keep it calm. I'm shocked you.
I'm
That
so
game was
pissed.
embarrassing, dude.
I'm so pissed, dude.
That Niners defense is generationally talented and has nothing to show for it, and it's a fucking shame.
1-2. We've lost to the Broncos and the Bears that have no offense themselves.
Jimmy G Orlovsky, that's like, and he big brain Orlovsky to boot. He saw that he was gonna throw the pick six and was like, take the safety.
Why even throw the ball? Yeah, and like, oh my god, I have to look at fucking Niners Twitter too on this stuff, and it's like, there's a play early on, Debo's running wide open down the right side of the field. This is the ball that got deflected at the line that was supposed to go to George Kittle on a like an in to out route, basically. It gets read by the safety that's dropping in. So if it didn't get deflected at the line, it's a pick. But he has Debo open. There's not a defender for like 20 yards down the right side. He doesn't even look his goddamn way. It's just like, oh, this is typical shit that we've seen here. It's just like, granted, it's his second week back. He didn't practice with the team.
Yeah.
They like him. They like him in the locker room, but I just wonder how this offense evolves with him out there. Like, how it develops through the season. They had a really rough last season to begin with. They ended up being, one of the favorites in the NFC there at the end. So, a lot of time, a lot of things to be proven. But yeah, a 1-2 team that has all the potential, should have been 3-0. By the way, solely by the way their defense played.
Yeah, easily. The defense isn't asking for miracles. They needed 12 points, and they didn't get it. But before we cause you to have an aneurysm from sheer lack of Niners offense, let's talk about a quarterback who is great.
You cut off. I didn't hear you right there.
Cooper Rush.
Oh,
baby.
Cooper.
Let's talk a quarterback who's actually good.
All right, let's talk Cooper Rush.
He looks unreal. Like, he actually looks good.
Dallas Cowboys going into New York, knocking off the undefeated Giants, 23-16. And yeah, Cooper Rush, 21-31, 215 touchdown. Out of your backup, what more you want?
Take that every day.
Tony Pollard on the other hand, should be your number one back. Is your number two back. Play him like your number one back, though. Look at that shit. 13-105. That being said, Zeke didn't have a bad day himself. 15 for 73.
It was the best game Zeke's had in a while.
It's a great 1-2 punch they got on the run.
Wrong in that game.
Yeah.
I will say, I do think a lot of his strength in that game was they gave the ball to Tony Pollard more. Right? You let your speed back be your speed back and be your guy who gets into open space, and start giving it to Zeke in shorter yardage situations. That's where Zeke's going to shine. He's not a guy who goes down at contact. He takes a couple of touches to get down. He's only going to get you a few yards. He's not that guy anymore who breaks off the 30, 40-yard runs. But in this kind of system, Zeke can shine. But Tony Pollard's got to be your guy. It's got to be Tony Pollard is your big play back. Right? There's no argument about it anymore.
Yeah.
He is not only your best back, this is a top 10 running back in the NFL, easily on that barometer.
Yeah.
Keep feeding him the ball like this, and not only is it going to be good for him, it's going to help Zeke out a lot, it's going to help Cooper Rush out a lot. Jerry Jones, don't get any ideas in your head. Cooper Rush isn't the answer. Don't do anything crazy here. But he's looking good for a backup who was, I believe, a 7th round draft or unsigned free agent out of Central Michigan.
Yeah,
right? Props to Coop.
definitely. Um, on the other side, bring it up real quick. Quads, decent game from Saquon there. 1481 touchdown himself. Daniel Jones actually like just on those Daniel Jones runs. He'll always get he'll always be mocked and whatever for tripping on the 10-yard line or whatever. Like painted online he tripped over in the turf monster that got him. But yeah, I mean that's still some pretty good carry from your
He's got
quarterback
Yankee
there.
speed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Giants losing Sterling Shepard, I believe, in this game due to
Yes.
injury. That's gonna hurt him. He was their main target in this
And
one.
done. He's
Yeah, for the year.
ACL's
That's right.
gone. He's done.
And then
That hurts.
yeah, really surprising. I don't believe anything with injury, just ineffectiveness. Kenny Galladay doing absolutely nothing for this Giants squad as well. I know he was kind of looked at as a potential piece as far as this offense was concerned. But yeah, Cooper Rush. I mean, efficient enough, I suppose. You'll take this for now, and given the situation, I mean, like if he. One thing I will say to Jerry Jones's credit, and I don't say that lightly at all. Trust me. One thing I will say, because whatever, like his quotes and that sort of thing, it was just ridiculous and it's all hyperbole and shit like that. I will say, if the situation comes around and Dak is healthy, but it's like it's really close and he's like questionable, he doesn't practice during a week or something like that, and Cooper Rush is playing well, I could see them giving Cooper Rush another week of playing with the team to give a little bit more healing time to Dak to ease him in the situation if Dallas is in the right situation to do so. If they're still winning games, they're looking good in the division, they're looking good in the conference, making, this is going to be a few weeks down the line, right? That Dak's going to be coming back. If they're still winning games, they're looking effective enough for Cooper Rush. You don't have the rush, to bring back Dak. So you maybe play Cooper Rush for another game or so than you would if this was you're bringing in a Brian Hoyer. You're like, get Mac Jones back now. As soon as possible. I think you have a little leeway, especially with how effective this team is in running the ball.
And I think another thing that's going to help him is right around Halloween time where he's supposed to be looking to get back. You got
Bye
the
week.
Bears and then a bye.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
that seems like the perfect time to just,
You play Rush for the Bears, get the
Rush
dub,
through that
hopefully
bye.
you get the bye. That's a beautiful call. Yeah.
And,
Book it.
Bring Dak back.
Book
after
it.
that
We're
bye.
calling it right
They
here.
do have a tough stretch of games in the middle there. Like, this week's and then after that, I think they go Eagles, Lions. There's another team in there that I think is a tough one for them. Rams, maybe. Which is going to be a tough stretch of games. But then you get past that, you got the Bears, you got the bye. I think they'll be fine going Cooper Rush there and maybe going 2-3 in that stretch of 5 games, getting to the bye at 500, getting Dak back. I think they'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, that right there will sum up last week 3 of the NFL right there. Just to give you a little bit of an update on how the picks have been going. Craig actually went 9-6 on his picks that last week. That one actually, Dallas over the Giants being the one that took it over me. I went 8-7 last week. So surprisingly, still above 500. On the year, your boy has gone 23-22. Craig has gone 22-23. So we're one game separated right here going into week 4, and we'll do a little bit of a sprint through the games here. Probably give a little bit of reasoning why we have our picks the way they are. But let's start out Sunday morning. And this is very,
London
very
calling.
early in the morning. We're talking about London game, baby. This is gonna be 6:30 my time. I probably won't watch this game. Maybe at the very end.
What? Come on.
Yeah,
Saints and
yeah.
Vikings?
Minnesota going into New Orleans in London. Uh, Vikings versus Saints. Vikings coming in at 2-1. Saints at 1-2. Saints getting +3 as the home team in this game. What you got?
Okay, hear me out, right?
All right.
We're in London. It's early
Yeah.
morning. Nobody wants to be there.
All right.
These games always suck. They're notoriously bad games. You got Andy Dalton versus Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins playing the very opposite of primetime football. Uh,
Oh yeah, that's right. This isn't
uh
primetime Kirk. Oh shit.
This is the opposite of primetime Kirk.
Oh, that's a
This is anti-primetime Kirk.
perfect.
I think the Vikings might just blow this game out of the water.
Yeah.
I think this is the kind of spot. I know there's a lot of people who like the Saints at +3, just because London game, weird shit happens.
Andy Dalton, who the fuck knows?
Andy Dalton, you got all the weird stuff. I just think this is a game where Kirk Cousins is so far out of the spotlight that he somehow gains superpowers from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the perfect situation for Kirk Cousins to be in. The lowest of low stakes games. Absolutely nobody cares. Vikings win this one going away.
Oh man. Oh well. I did not take this into account. I did pick Minnesota. What I took into account was I'm really liking obviously Dalvin Cook getting a little bit of action back.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson, although last week not having it as much, obviously he's had a couple good games prior to that, like Adam Thielen. Basically, I think as I do like this New Orleans Saints defense for sure, not enough, I feel, especially on the offensive side. I can't imagine Andy Dalton's going to be doing very much against this Minnesota defense, which is pretty decent themselves. Give me Minnesota.
Yeah.
Let's go to some more reasonable in the morning Sunday games. Cleveland going into Atlanta. This one was actually the toughest one for me to pick.
Oh, this was the easiest one for me to pick.
Atlanta at +1 at home. What you got, Falcons fan?
Oh, well, the Homer picks are 3-0 this year.
Homer.
I've yet to miss on the Homer pick. Honest to God, not only do I like the Falcons to win this outright, it's not going to be ugly, but I think it will be convincing. I think this Falcons team is better than people are giving it credit for. And I think as the season goes along, they are starting to get better and better. This defense is no joke. Their rush defense has gotten a little bit of criticism, but a lot of that's just due to week one and Kamara really putting a lopsided number on them. I think the last 2 weeks their run defense has actually been in the top half of the league as far as efficiency's gone. Right? Myles Garrett won't be playing. I see no way Myles Garrett's playing this Sunday.
Yeah.
So Cleveland's defense is already missing their biggest piece. I think Atlanta hands the Browns a loss here. Not necessarily I'm not saying like a 30-7 beatdown or anything like that. This will be, I think I could see this being a touchdown difference between these two teams. I could see this being a convincing Falcons win.
I have the Falcons as well. I really like what right now what this is going to come down to is these are two teams that are a particular focus on the run.
Yes.
You obviously you got the Chubb Hunt combo on one side, right? You got the beauty that is the 31-year-old Cordero Patterson on the other side. When it comes down to that, and I think you have some defenses, especially with the Myles Garrett thing, that are probably like not equaling each other out, but I feel like kind of on that same level almost. Now it's the quarterbacks. I got a little bit more trust, honestly, in Marcus Mariota to get the job done for the Falcons when the time calls for it to be able to make the right play over Jacoby Brissett. Give me the Falcons. It's
Yeah,
essentially
I
a
see that.
pick'em game with that point spread. -1 for Cleveland is you might as well just call it even. Um, and yeah, so I like Falcons at the with the plus point as well. Um, just spoke about it recently. Um, Washington and the Commies going into Dallas to face off against Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys getting -3 here at home. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I hate this game. I'll say that I hate this game because this again feels like another one of those games where Carson Wentz puts up decent stats and everybody forgets that he's Carson Wentz, right? It's not the most high stakes game in the world. You're playing the backup quarterback on the road who has all of a sudden taken all the eyes to Dallas. Everybody's kind of looking at Dallas here. It feels like the kind of game where Carson Wentz shows up and pulls out some kind of a dub. We've seen 2 games out of Cooper Rush now. You got to wonder if maybe defenses are starting to get some tape on him. Maybe they can find something out on him. Uh, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I like the commies in this one.
Oh,
I just there's something here that makes me feel like this is the kind of game where Carson Wentz throws for 350 and 4 touchdowns. Right? Probably a pick or two in there, but like the whole stat line, you go, that looked pretty decent from Carson.
yeah. I'm gonna go opposite way. I like Dallas on this one. This will be our first split here. Washington comes out with a win against Jacksonville. And we all think, all right, they're just a bit better. Not a super good 28-22, that game
Yeah.
was, by the way. They didn't lose to Detroit in a game they were actually scheduled or they were set up. It was, the line was for them to lose.
Yeah.
Detroit gets the minus there on the road. Um, a Philly game to where they should have really only had like 3 points in that game, maybe six
Yeah.
or five. Sorry, the safety, right? Safety field goal. They get a touchdown, missed 2 point conversion. So I don't even care what their score was. They gave up 24 in the first half. Philly didn't even need to put up points because the other offense wasn't doing enough. As much as I think it's funny as hell that I would even consider it, outside of that opening game where Dak goes down and the shit show that was, like you've had 2 oddly similar games from the Dallas Cowboys against 2 very different opponents in the Cincinnati Bengals and New York Giants. Um, I can't help but like this Cowboys team to continue what they're doing. So I got Dallas for this one. Um, yeah, absolutely the potential. He already showed us in a couple weeks. Carson Wentz could put up those crazy numbers, so no doubt about that. But they've really kind of sucked as of late. So I'm thinking
Oh
the
yeah,
commies are
absolutely.
really on that downslope. But
It just to me feels like the perfect storm of a game for a Carson Wentz makes everybody think that he's decent again game,
right,
and everything just seems to line up right for me. It's more of a gut pick than anything else. My head is telling me you're an idiot. The Cowboys are going to win this, but there's just something about it that I don't know.
all right. I feel like you already know where I'm going with this pick, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you answer this first. I'm going to run real quick to the bathroom. Seattle going into Detroit into Ford Field to take on the Lions. The Lions. Second week in a row, right? Or third week in a row? No, not third week in
Oh,
a
two
row.
out of the last three.
2 out of the last 3.
Minnesota was
That's what I meant
favored
to
by
say.
a heavy line last week.
That's what I meant to say. -3.5 for the Lions in this one. I'll be right back. Who do you got, Craig?
Here's the thing. Lions, I love this team. I think they're honestly a very good team. I really think the Lions are a good team this year. no DeAndre Swift, no Amon-Ra St. Brown. Austin Siebert's out, so they don't even have their kicker. It's dicey. It's not like Detroit's defense has been good. They have actually been quite bad. Seahawks offense has also not been good. So this is one of those weird games where it comes down to a last-second field goal. It's a really tight one that could go either way. I like the Lions to win the game, but I think the Seahawks cover the 3.5. I just feel like this is one of those games that's 27, 24, 24, 21, something along those lines. And 3.5 is just, if it was 2.5, I'd have the Lions. At 3.5, it just feels like one of those ones. Missing too many guys. Just missing too many guys.
This one, because with the realization that that's the case with Swift, St. Brown. At first it was on Mac, and then just kind of like realizing that situation and thinking about it, I'm like, brain's telling me should probably think the Seahawks have enough. As a Niners fan, my heart tells me otherwise. Fuck the Seahawks. Give me Detroit.
I get it, but like, no Siebert, no St. Brown, no Swift. Chark is injured. Reynolds is injured. Both questionable.
Ford Field gonna be lit up. It's gonna be loud. Geno Smith's not gonna be able to handle it.
I don't even disagree with that. I just don't think it's gonna be
yeah, exactly. It's just that take the under. Take the under.
Take the under.
48. 48 is the over-under on this one. Take the under.
Hammer the under.
Hammer the under. We can agree on that. Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know where the fuck they get 48 from, dude.
This has all the makings of 17-16. What do you mean 48?
Yeah. Agreed. Keep it moving. This has become a weird little, I don't know, one on the up, one on the down, maybe kind of crossing paths here. AFC South matchup. Tennessee going into Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Colts getting -3.5 at home. The classic 1-1-1 record. Tennessee coming in at 1-2. Interesting on this one, I believe. Yeah, we still have Julian Blackmon out at safety, but this is potentially a comeback here for Shaquille Leonard, linebacker for the Colts. Huge piece for them. DeForest Buckner dinged up, hurt in that last game. Still questionable. Probably will play just based on history. Buckner will play through injuries all the time. He did it all the time with the Niners. I know that for damn sure. So very interesting game as far as what these teams are going to actually come with. I think that game against the Chiefs last week, that was a big one for this team. I think there was higher expectations of what this team could be. They got blown out, obviously, a complete shutout by Jacksonville. Did not expect that. The stinker against Houston to begin the season. Get over that, though. You come out, and I think they pick up the win here. They go 2-1-1, and they're actually looking pretty decent there in the AFC South at the end of this.
Yeah, Colts all day. I hate this Titans team. There's just nothing there that makes me think.
Tannehill, aging, kind of dinged up Henry that doesn't have much around him as far as offensive production. Yeah, I gotta agree.
That's just it. I don't even think it's aging or dinged up. I just think there's nothing else. Teams are just able to stack. Freaking, there was a play last week where they stacked 9 guys in the box.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
What are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Like, This Colts team's bad, or this Colts team's not great, but this Titans team's bad.
Yeah, and
And
this is also a Colts team that right now is third in the league as far as rushing yards against per game. Is only, I mean, DeForest Buckner is dinged up, but if you get Griffin back, that's only going to be a stronger defensive
yeah,
unit for these guys.
yeah.
Pretty decent passing yards per game, points per against per game. I as bad as their offense has been to begin the season for them, obviously getting shut out by the Jags is kind of tell of that. It seems like you might have a little bit more rhythm there for Matt Ryan, and yeah, hopefully JT Jonathan Taylor is able to keep it going because yeah, it wasn't there early in the season for him
No,
for sure.
but this Titans defense is distinctly average against the run, and this is the kind of game where JT can really break out, get back to the guy that he was last year. It's ugly. It's not a nice matchup for the Titans.
This Titans defense actually terrible against the run. 145 yards per game right now they're giving up. Huge numbers on the ground. So
Worse
yeah,
than I thought.
yeah. So even a little bit more stacked in that favor.
I was being generous.
Next, we go into a game against two NFC 2-1 Titans. The Chicago Bears going into New York to face off against the Giants in what should be two teams that are at the top of the NFC right now if you're looking at the rankings. But
Playoff teams, baby, playoff teams.
but right now this is a hilariously this is this is a I mean teams that both rely on their running game as much as possible, and both their defenses can't really stop the run. So I wonder what we're like if this is going to be an oddly offensive game because neither could really do anything about the other's strength as far as the offensive side is concerned. But then it's probably going to come down to who's going to be passing the ball a little bit more effectively. You know who I've been picking. I've been doing this weird thing where all of a sudden I'm liking New York teams even though they're kind of trash. Give me the Giants at home at the -3. Even though they just lost Sterling Shepard. I know. I'm aware. I just don't know where the fuck the Bears are going to come with some offense outside of they got a back. They got Justin Fields. I don't know.
This
What do you
game,
think? What do you think?
this game is going to end 9-6, and my question is, which field goal kicker do I like more?
All right. It's a good call. Gano versus.
Uh, huh.
Is it Santos on the other side? No.
Yeah, Cairo Santos.
Cairo Santos. I know who I like.
Fuck. In all honesty, Daniel Jones pressured 26 times on 36 dropbacks last week against the Cowboys.
God.
Wow. You're facing Roquan Smith this week. He's gonna get there a few times if you do that. The Bears sneak out an ugly one.
See,
I don't know.
You know what's kind of funny is if Roquan Smith is effective, I think it might even be on the other side because I think he had a pick in the last game. Pretty good coverage linebacker as well. Yeah. Danny Dimes, known to throw in dimes to the other side. Maybe Roquan with a pick as well as maybe a sack. I kind of like that thought of it. Roquan is pretty strong in this situation.
Last 2 weeks for Roquan Smith, by the way, 27 tackles.
Nice.
Dude's on an absolute bender right now, and if you're gonna let pressure through like that,
some Bobby Wags numbers right there. That's looking good. Damn.
I don't know. In a game that's gonna be so ugly and so tight, a guy like that on defense is the kind of guy who makes a difference. It's not going to be a quarterback or a running back. It's going to be a guy like that.
What's very interesting on this one is it's definitely the dynamic of how these teams the game would operate around them. The Bears absolutely atrocious. Even though they're a 2-1 team, their time of possession is god awful. Barely, not even getting 27 minutes per game on average here. but they could actually get some turnovers. On the other side, the Giants could actually keep possession, but they can't get a turnover on the other side as far as their defense is concerned. What's going to win out in that situation? Is it just going to be that slow grind, or is there going to be 1-2 turnover plays that are the pivotal plays that make this one side or the other? I think that's really the key to it. Are we going to see 1 or 2 pivotal turnovers, or are we going to just see this grinded out, slow 9-6, as you brought up, style of game, right?
So what you're telling me is I need to trust Daniel Jones to not turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Give me the Bears.
Or you need to trust the Bears to be able to maintain drives for longer than a few minutes, right?
I mean, if the Giants are throwing down 10, 12-minute drives that are ending in pick sixes,
well, yeah, that's another thing. We're not saying that. I'm just saying, timely, that sort of thing. Like, right.
I'm gonna take the Bears defense to just be slightly better than the Giants defense in this one.
All right.
This total is 39.5. I somehow still like the under.
Yeah. Yeah. Still like the under. I don't blame you. That's a good under.
That total could be 29.5. And I would be considering the under. This one's gonna be don't watch it. Don't watch it, guys.
No. Of course, don't watch.
There's so many good games on 11. Watch the Bills Ravens. Just go there. Eagles and Jags should be fun, given what the Jags are doing recently. Just don't watch this one.
Damn. Wow. Let's go right into that one. Let's forget about this game that's potentially going to be 9-6 or whatever the hell it's going to be. 11-5. Who knows? That'd be a funny score, actually. 11-5.
What's the score?
11-5 gotta be the scoregami. Yeah, 11-5's gotta be a scoregami, right?
11-5 is a scoregami.
All right.
I like the I think this game's got a big bang of the 9-4 scoregami. Couple safeties in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
all
let's
right.
get out of this game. We've talked about it way too long.
There you go. Jacksonville going into Philly. 2-1 Jags going into 3-0 Eagles. Eagles getting -6.5 here at home. Who do you like?
Philly. I do think the Jags are better than last year. And I don't think what we've seen the last couple of weeks is necessarily a facade, so to speak. I do think there's some meat on that bone, and I think Doug Peterson's doing a lot of good things there.
Yeah.
But there's still a bare bones operation. There's still work that needs to be done there. Philadelphia is much further ahead in that process. This is the class of the NFC, in my opinion. Maybe among the class of the NFL. I don't think the Jaguars have what it takes to stop them.
This will be interesting. This will be a game to tell if they're a little bit more for real. Obviously we brought up that week 1, the bad loss to Washington. Last 2 games, the Colts shut them out. The Chargers gave up 10. On the other side, the Eagles have a very close game to begin their season against Detroit and sneak out a 3-point win, but give up 35 to Detroit. They then give up only 7 to Minnesota and 8 to Washington. My problem with this is a -6.5 line. The giant line. I'm not very bought in on the Jags, but as of late, they're playing pretty goddamn well. They got a good running game going for them. They're utilizing the weapons that they have picked up. I like Jacksonville to at least keep this within 6.5. I like the Eagles to win. I like the Jags to keep it close.
Yeah, I don't think the Jags are going to get skunked in this one per se, but I think there's enough there to this game be like a 30-21 kind of scoreline.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, I think there's enough there in this game that the Eagles win by 7-10 kind of thing. not an ugly showing, and the kind of game that the Jaguars could even build a little bit of momentum off of. Listen, you see what this team's been doing to other teams, and we were able to keep them somewhat competitive, right? But I think ultimately the Eagles just have a little bit too much here.
Yeah, give you that. I mean, Dave looked every bit of it, right?
Yeah.
Um, it'd be interesting the defensive side of the ball how Jags play, but we'll keep it going. Um, Jets going into Pittsburgh. Both 1-2 teams right now. Pittsburgh getting -3.5 at home. I'll go out right now and I'll just say it. Zach Wilson. No. I'm sure there's gotta imagine Zach Wilson's mom has a few friends out in Pittsburgh, right? Some folks he could say hi, to. I like Zach Wilson and the Jets against Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers.
100%. This is an easy. This was one of the easier ones for me. Um, I that Steelers offense stinks. Man, it's bad. And I talked about it. I like this Jets defense a lot. I think there's a lot of good pieces on this Jets defense. I think Sauce Gardner has been doing a great job against top receivers. I don't think that changes against Deontay Johnson. And if you can manage to limit Deontay Johnson, what the fuck does this Pittsburgh offense have? Najee's good, but he cannot make up for how bad that offensive line is. I think you're right. I think the addition of Zach Wilson's going to help put a little bit of life into this otherwise listless Jets offense. I don't think they're going to all of a sudden shoot the lights out. But Jets putting up 21 or so, that's easy to see in a game like this. And that's more than enough to, A, win this game, or B, definitely cover 3.5. There ain't no way Pittsburgh scoring 25 plus. Get out of here with that. I love the Jets in this one.
There we go. Simple as that. Yeah, I mean, and we brought up like if you want to try to run the ball, oddly enough, for a 1-2 team, this probably isn't a line you want to run against. This is a pretty damn decent defensive line they're going against right here. I can't imagine Najee Harris going to have too much success on this one. So you're putting it into Mitch Trubisky's hands. Yeah, give me the Jets. Kind of on the flip side, this might be the game of the week right here. I'm not too sure what you think. Buffalo going into Baltimore to face off. Bills against the Ravens, both 2-1 teams. Baltimore getting +3 at home. As far as I know, there was a couple injuries, and I know Buffalo was kind of at the forefront of it. You're talking about Mitch Morse, Jordan Poyer, Jordan Phillips out actually, officially, Dane Jackson, and even Dawson Knox. I didn't actually realize the Dawson Knox part. All some questionables there. Jordan Phillips, yeah, being out on that one. Man, I like this Buffalo team. I think on the road right now, the way this Baltimore Ravens team's playing, I want to see a little bit more dynamic, more of a dynamic offense out of the Ravens. But right now, this situation, injury potential, or injuries potentially, keeping guys out, I like the Ravens in this game.
Can I just bet the over? Can I just bet that this is going to go over 51 and not have to worry about the line? I hate this.
Tough one.
I hate this because I feel like it's a tough one. But ultimately, I hate this Ravens defense. I feel like this Ravens defense is showing a lot of it. Like, that 42 points that you gave up, mostly in the second half to Miami, giving up 26 to a New England offense that has looked horrendous and gave you 3 picks. I gotta feel like the Bills can just outscore the Ravens in this one because that Bills defense is good, right? That Bills defense is really good, and they will find a way to make a couple plays that the Ravens defense just won't. It's going to be high scoring, easiest over you will ever play in your life. How is that line only 51? I know that sounds like a big line, but honestly, that is 30 points apiece, and you are over. It's going to be no problem in this one. I think the Bills end up winning this something like 38-31, 38-34, something in that range. 41-34, right? Like, it's going to be tight, but I think the Bills' offense won't be able to be stopped, whereas the Bills' defense will be able to make a play or two on the Ravens' offense. That'll cause the difference.
Here we go. Money talk.
I did not expect that. I should have my alerts turned off. My mistake. Thank you, whoever that was. I'll check that in a second. As we go into the next game here, we got the Chargers going into the Texans. Plus 5.5 for the Houston Texans. Chargers obviously not looking good as of late. That's for damn sure. Losing 38-10 to Jacksonville. The close one before that to Kansas City for sure. So a little bit of an unfortunate end of the week 2 game, and then just an absolute stinker in the last one. Houston Texans, though, after tying against Indianapolis for a game they should have won, unfortunately losing to Denver there 16-9, and then Chicago 23-20. So close games. Who do you got?
See, this is another one of those ones that I hate mainly because of the line. The Chargers will win. The question is, will they win by 5.5? I know Texans are a sexy upset pick this week, but Justin Herbert was full practice last couple days. No issues, no limits on what he was doing. It sounds like he was throwing the ball well. Sounds like the ribs are doing better. If that's the case, the Chargers should win this. If they can get Eckler involved, 5.5 is no problem. If they continue to just avoid the run like the flu, this game might be closer than it should be. I'm still going to go with the Chargers. I just think they are 5.5 points better than the Texans in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But something about this game gives me bad feelings.
This is a get-right game. This is a get-right game for the Chargers. It has to be right now. This is a Houston team that is not, like, they're trying to get there. I thought based on, like, how they played in the preseason, that sort of thing, that they might be a little bit closer. The tie to begin against Indy is kind of like a moral little victory you could take away, but it's honestly a game you should have won. And they've kept these games close, but they're losing them right now against Denver and Chicago, which better record for Denver, but I mean, I got no reason to believe that team is going to, like, really perform to the level I thought they were going to. I have a little bit more faith in the Chargers on this one, and I have a little bit more faith that they could put up some points in this game. Especially after a really bad Jacksonville loss. If there's a time when they're going to get right and, like, get back a little bit more of the form. Obviously, they're still dealing with injuries to guys like Keenan Allen, that sort of thing. But, yeah, I got to hope that they do a little bit better. And so, yeah, I like them for the against that plus 5.5 against Houston. Moving on, we got Arizona going into Carolina. I got this at an even split. This is a pick'em game straight up.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, this is what shouldn't have been a pick'em game, I think, at the beginning of the season. But both teams have played just a spectacular version of middling football.
I was going to say mediocre.
Yeah. Who you got?
As much as this sounds insane for me to say, as much as it makes no sense that these words are about to come out of my mouth, I think I got the Panthers. I don't trust this Cardinals team.
Yeah.
They're struggling to put up points against teams that don't have great defenses. The Panthers, if they have one thing, it is a great defense.
Yeah.
They might not score the lights out, but they can score enough to keep pace with their defense, with what their defense is doing. This isn't a Bears situation where their defense has been unbelievable, but their offense can't even score that much. This offense can score enough to get to where their defense is getting. It's not going to be a pretty one. This isn't Bills and Ravens. Hammer the under. I don't know what the over-under is, but yeah, it's something like 17-13 Panthers, something along those lines. Like they'll score enough to get their defense over the finish line.
Right. Everything stats tells me wise, you take the Panthers at home right here. It's another feeling of a road game. We just talked about one. Road team coming in, a get-right game, more or less. I can't imagine that the Cardinals are as bad as they've shown. To degrees, I thought they would have some slip. The one very most surprising one to me, their points against per game. They're giving up damn near 30 points a game against themselves. A lot through the air. And they're feeling the loss of Chandler Jones. Can't get any goddamn sacks. The one thing you could take out of that last game is, for as much as they were on their heels, and that game wasn't really even close, and the Rams probably weren't even trying that hard toward the latter half of that game, it was still a 20-12 game. Garbage touchdown, I know, so it's not really 12 points they got. They just kind of tacked that on at the end. The only thing the Panthers have done as far as their win column is that New Orleans game they just played in. Couple close losses against New York and Cleveland. Very losses as well. My initial feeling in a pick'em game, I gotta feel like the Cardinals are still a bit better of a team here than the Panthers are. So I got the Cardinals. Just a bit. Not much.
I get it, but I don't know.
I don't know. Trust me. This wasn't an easy pick by any means. I'm just trying.
There's every chance that the Cardinals are just bad.
I mean, that happens. That happens for sure. It's just
with the Chargers, I can at least see like, okay, last week Justin Herbert's hurt. Your offense isn't clicking. For some reason, you became immune to running the ball. You can throw that one off to the side. This is a team that if you take that game and kind of put it on the back burner, is a strong-looking 1-1. A very tight loss to the Chiefs and a very not scoreline convincing, but they were the much better team over the Raiders. I don't see that with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Right, this is a 1-2 team that should realistically be 0-3. The Cardinals, or the Raiders rather, did everything they could to let the Cardinals win in week 2.
Yeah.
I just think they're that bad.
The one I suppose gotta take a look out as far as as it progresses. Two questionable players. Christian McCaffrey, I guess, had a thigh injury, was held out of practice for a couple days. I don't know if he practiced the last day, maybe very limited. On the other side, Rodney Hudson, questionable with a knee injury for the Cards. That's going to be a huge piece for him. If Rodney Hudson doesn't go for the Cards side, that's going to really hurt. If Christian McCaffrey doesn't go for the Panthers side, I don't know where the hell they have offense. I mean, I like your Robbie Anderson, that sort of thing. I just don't know if Baker's going to get it to him, right? especially with Adam McCaffrey. So, yeah, some injury questions there that might sway this. Yeah, I don't know. It's just my initial feeling on a straight pick'em game.
This one sucks.
This
game
yeah.
sucks.
Here's a fun game to pick, though. We'll get into the next one. New England going into Green Bay. The Brian Hoyer-led Patriots going into the Aaron Rodgers-led Packers. Minus 9.5 for the Pack at home. Who you got, Craig?
Oh, Packers. 9.5's not enough for Brian Hoyer. 19.5's not enough for Brian Hoyer.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think the Packers are gonna shoot out the lights on this one by any means, but let's say the Packers put up 28. That probably means they win by 28. Right? I don't think this is. I'm not looking for them to put up 40 or anything like that, but if they can put up somewhere in the mid-20s, they should win this game laughing.
Here's the funny thing for this. So I am not a believer in Brian Hoyer.
Oh, he's going with the Brian Hoyer pick?
I am not a believer in Brian Hoyer. I think that he, at spots, like, if he had to come in during the middle of a game, kind of all right. If he was literally known as a starter for a game, it was a whole different story, and it was just bad. Here's the thing, though. This Green Bay Packers offense, we brought up the running game earlier. We brought up Aaron Rodgers in previous talks about lack of production and not quite being the same kind of offense, that sort of thing. An offense that's still trying to get things gelled together. An offense or a team that lost week 1 to the Vikings 23-7. Won against against Chicago 27-10. Good. And won against Tampa Bay, but 14-12. This is a Green Bay team that's not offensively putting it together. And with a spread of minus 9.5, give me the Patriots. Because this game's going way under. This game is at 40 over-under.
Under.
Give me the under, and give me the Patriots to keep this closer than 9.5. I have no faith, really, in the Patriots being able to win this game, or even keeping it that close. Close to the 9.5, though. Like, because the Packers aren't going to put up enough on the other side. As bad as this New England defense has been, too. They're not a good defense right now.
I think
Green Bay doesn't have it on the offensive side. I just don't feel it.
I get what you're saying, but I think this is the perfect game to come into when you're having running back issues.
To get right.
Right. I think this is the get right. I think Jones and Dillon just fucking go off on this Patriots run defense, and it just looks bad.
By the way, we still got 3 games to go. This might be a Sports Clichés record on split picks here. We'll go through them at the end. Let's get into the next one. Denver Broncos come off an 11-10 win.
I don't think this is going to be a split.
They go into Vegas. Vegas getting minus 2.5 at home against the 2-1 Broncos. The only winless team still minus at home here against the Broncos. I guess that tells a lot of stories, right? Who do you got?
A battle between the two most incompetent coaches in the NFL. I will take the Broncos.
Oh, the Bronx.
Who have actually shown me that they have some semblance of a team on one side of the ball. Their defense is decent. The Raiders have nothing. It's not gonna be pretty. These two coaches will try to shoot themselves in the foot at every turn. But I think the Broncos defense makes enough plays to win the day.
This is an interesting one.
Boy, is it.
I did not expect when I was taking a look at this line that the Vegas Raiders were gonna get minus points at home, being an 0-3 team facing off against a 2-1 team. That speaks a lot of volumes to how this all arose. And if you take a look at how they won these games, Denver lost a 17-16 game to begin their season against Seattle, against the Seahawks. They then won against Houston 16-9 against Houston. And then they won against the Jimmy Garoppolo-led 49ers 11-10. On the other side, the Raiders lost against the Chargers 24-19, and we've talked about the Chargers' troubles already. This is the one game the Chargers got. They lost to the Arizona Cardinals, another team we just recently talked about. Lost to them 29-23. And then they lost to the Tennessee Titans just last week 24-22. This Raiders team has found a way to lose games they should no business losing.
Spectacular. They were up 16 going into the fourth quarter
How?
against the Cardinals.
The Cardinals one is the one that stands out the most because of all that. That's the biggest loss. That 6-point loss was the biggest loss.
Yes.
They lost by 5 and 2 otherwise.
If this line was flipped, I would consider the Raiders, but it's not.
I cannot believe I am doing this, and this is why I said this precursor.
Oh no!
I got the Las Vegas Raiders at home, baby. Give me Derek Carr.
Memorize the slogans.
Just win, baby. That's all they need to do. They need to find a way to somehow beat this fucking Denver Broncos team that somehow has gotten a couple wins under the belt, doing nothing but having a pretty damn good defense. They have a great defense, no doubt about that. You cannot talk. You cannot talk about the Broncos and not say give credit to that. I think one of the best sack teams in the league. No, eighth in the league, but 9 sacks. 3 per game. You don't sneeze at that by any means. Rushing yard, passing yards against per game, fantastic. Second least points. So their defense is doing all this work for them. This Raiders team should have a better record than 0-3. They've given up some shit. They've given up some free ones. And this is a Raiders team we've talked about in the past that they get the hot start, right? And then they fade late. We've talked about this last season. They are a fade late team. What if they flip it around this time? And I know we're not even to the middle point of the season. But at home, division rival gets a team that doesn't have offense for shit. Can you find a way to finally pick up a win? I think the Raiders can do it. I think they do it better than 2.5. Vegas, baby.
I can't believe they won't find a way to shoot themselves in the dick again.
The potential's there, isn't it?
It'll be in spectacular fashion. I don't know. What have they not done yet? Butt fumble? Are they gonna butt fumble? Let's say butt fumble. They lose this by butt fumble.
Lost by butt fumble. There we go. Yeah, this is as good of a pick as anything, right? Lost by butt fumble. I'll write that down. As I write that down, into the next game, another even spread. Very surprised by this one. Kansas City going into Tampa Bay. Both 2-1 teams, granted. But Sunday Night Football. And this is a pick'em game. Tampa Bay at home, I guess, granted. And I don't know as far as the guys are getting back. Obviously, they're getting Mike Evans back from suspension.
Evans is back. Godwin is still likely out. He's listed as questionable, but he hasn't practiced yet. Still likely out. As well, Brashad Perriman could be out too.
Yeah. I think the thing, if I was to say anything to why they kept this game close, as far as the spread was concerned, is because these score lines basically that Tampa Bay has are pretty incredible. 19-3 win against Dallas, and we know obviously all the factors that came to the 19-3 win for them. New Orleans 20-10, Jameis Winston. Green Bay loss, but 14-12. So you still only gave up 14 points to Green Bay. The defense is the only reason they're even in this conversation of being close to this Kansas City Chiefs team, and I'm surprised that it's still even. How the
What
Chiefs
offense
don't...
has they played that can match the Chiefs?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know, dude. Leonard Fournette maybe gets back on track a little bit better. He had a decent game. What? Not last game, maybe the game before that.
Week 1.
Oh, I thought week 2 he kind of bounced back, but maybe not that.
I think week 2 he was off. I think it was week 1 he had a decent game and then has been off in the last 2.
I will say that the Chiefs need to find a little bit their running game themselves. Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked decent, I believe, that week 1, but it's kind of since fallen off. They don't really have anything going along with that as well. So a little bit of a one-sided offensive game plan they have. But yeah, the numbers speak for themselves as far as their offensive production is concerned. It's the fucking Chiefs right now. Minus Tyreek Hill, who cares? They'll still get it done. Mecole Hardman isn't even doing anything out there, at least in their last game. They're still putting up some pretty decent numbers. So yeah, I have no reason not to pick the Chiefs in this pick'em.
Yeah, I get that the Bucs have had a pretty decent defense, but like it's also not the Colts defense, right? Like they're not going to do what the Colts were able to do. And especially like Mahomes off of losses like that tends to come back firing. I get the fact that this is Brady in primetime, but it's also 45-year-old Brady in primetime who has looked every bit of 45 this year.
Yeah.
I got no reason to think that the Chiefs don't win this thing
Yeah.
by a fair margin. Not a ton. They're not going to win it by 30 or anything like that, but I could see the Chiefs putting up 35, 36 points. And if they do that, are the Bucs going to put up 33? No. Like it'll if the Chiefs get into the 30s, this game's gonna look a little bit lopsided. Not a ton lopsided, but a little bit lopsided.
Yeah. And let's keep moving to the last game. Monday Night Football. It's an interesting one. There's a little history here, but a very interesting one and a very interesting line, I will say. Los Angeles.
You explain to me how the Niners are favorites.
Can I do that? Los Angeles Rams go into the San Francisco 49ers into Santa Clara to face off 2-1 Rams, 1-2 49ers. Niners getting -1.5 at home. Can I explain? This defense. That's it. At this point, because right now you have an out Trent Williams, you have an offense that put up 10 points against a Broncos team that gave him every opportunity to do more than that. Granted, I will say, Broncos, good defense, great defense. Should have still put up way better points than that. For sure, especially how much the defense was stopping them. Special teams a little questionable as well, honestly, for the 49ers. They got a lot of punts that they got less than 10 yards on the return on. So they end up with some much longer fields than I felt like they should have had. Ray McLeod had an oddly bad game in their last game, I noticed. Very outlier thing to bring up. But, yeah, Niners defense and a history of playing really strong against the Rams. Even though, obviously, their last matchup, that was a loss in the NFC Championship game against them. You know where I'm going. I can't not go homer pick on this. I have to feel like the Niners will get it figured out. It'll be more like the second half of the game against against Seattle than it will be the entire game of what Denver was. That's what I gotta hope for. And hope I do. Great possession, great time of possession for the Niners, and pretty abysmal time of possession for the Rams. And if you're gonna work the running game, like hopefully you keep that going, keep this pretty measured, and don't have to have Jimmy throwing a bunch. right?
Who is blocking Aaron Donald?
3 interior linemen that are new to the that are
Just shift
new
the whole
to.
line to the
Well,
left.
no, but that's the thing. That's always been that's kind of been the focus. Is the tackles were pretty set, and even though Trent Williams is down, you have a decent backups in like school and that sort of thing for the Niners. But it's been the interior. That's been the question mark. The Burfords, all those guys. It's like that unit is gonna have to get
Yeah,
better for sure.
it's like I get it. Recent history, the Niners have really played the Rams well. I cannot get out of my head the memory of how god awful they were against Denver offensively.
Yeah, they were bad.
I know the Niners defense is great, and they are. But this Rams offense is a much stiffer test than the Broncos offense. I'm not expecting them to fail it per se, but you can get a very good passing grade with the offense that they have and still lose this game. Right? The Rams put up 17 against your defense. You're usually feeling pretty confident about that. The Rams get 17 in this game, and the Niners could lose that. I really want to go with the Niners. There's a lot in my head that says the Niners defense holds enough. The Niners offense gets a little something figured out.
This is a Rams team that just put up only 20 against the Cardinals.
Now that was on 7.4 a play. Right.
Just saying. Lost 31-10 to open the season. 10 points. It's tough.
Recent history tells you the Niners win this game. They have dominated this matchup in recent history. I gotta go with the Rams. I cannot trust Jimmy Garoppolo the way he's playing right now to put up enough points to win this game. Right?
I will say it's you have those kind of games with Jimmy G, and then you have the more middling to good performances with him.
Yeah.
He has the stinkers for sure. I can't imagine it's going to be as bad as it was with Denver. I will give Denver a decent amount of credit. Like, there was a couple plays. Like, I brought up the Debo running wide open down the right sideline on a streak. No defender around him. They literally, the safety that's supposed to cover him drops into coverage to defend against a middle in or something like that. He goes to even a closer in middle in Kittle, and another guy is dropping in on that. And if he just sees that, it's open to Debo. So it's like absolutely those sort of things are the most worrying for this offense. But I don't know. I've seen it enough to where like he can make those bad reads, that sort of thing. They'll scheme it up enough to where he shouldn't be putting up a 10-point game, I would hope. But it happens. It happens with Jimmy G all the time.
Oh, and I do get that. But
Yeah,
it's like
it's
when
are you gonna get that?
Ceiling on Garoppolo points in this game, right? Like, is Garoppolo putting up 24 against this defense or 27? I don't know about that. The Rams putting up 20 to 23. I can see happening. They got a good offense. It's not the Broncos offense, right? I feel like the Rams put up 17 to 20, and the Niners would usually feel good about that.
Yeah.
But that might be a bridge too far in this game.
I think this 11 to 10. It's a bad loss. It looks bad, that sort of thing. If you're kind of looking at another game, and we talked extensively about this game. Very Buffalo Miami, right? This is a game that the Niners should have won. No fucking doubt.
Yep.
and they just didn't get enough done. And Denver kept hanging around. Didn't get that touchdown until pretty late.
Yep.
Otherwise, that team puts up 3 and then 5 based on the safety. It just they did so many good things that are going to get ignored as far because on the
100%
defensive
agree with
or not ignored because you obviously you acknowledge it that sort of thing, but it's like that defense played so fucking good in that last game that I gotta
They
hope
play so fucking good in this game too.
there's enough there to where like you give some short fields, you have a little bit better special teams as well to be able to give some shorter fields. You kick some Robbie Gold field goals. You could put up better than fucking 10, 17. Hopefully, you could do better than that points. That's
How
what you
long's the
gotta
leash on
hope.
Garoppolo until we get Brock Purdy?
Decently. I mean,
You think so?
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't think they'll even give Purdy a look if it's looking similar?
Depends on how many games we're talking in the season. Honestly, if I'll be honest, if this season really starts tanking for the Niners, and you're looking from 1-2 to 1-6.
You think it's that long, eh?
I think it is. Yeah.
I don't, because I think they are going to see this defense as being that elite.
But you gotta look at last season too. This team was very much in the similar situation last season. They were 1-5 going into the Bears, I believe, and they won that game late. That was not a easy win for them, but that was their get back game. That was a 1-5 Niners team. That was a bad Niners team to start last season.
I feel like that one was different last season, though. They played some really good teams early in the year, got some tight losses, like the 2-point loss to the Packers.
Yeah.
They played a great game against the Cardinals, who at that time were really good and held them close. The Colts were absolutely on. That was the start of the Colts being absolutely on fire with Jonathan Taylor. They haven't played good teams this year.
Well,
They've lost to the Bears and Broncos.
yeah, but they also absolutely stomped out the Seattle Seahawks, and the only points Seattle ever put up was the block field goal for a touchdown.
Block field
They
goal,
otherwise put the 0 on a really bad team. They should still beat a team like Chicago. Should have won that game against Denver, although I don't feel like Denver's necessarily a bad team. Their offense is really bad.
Yeah.
Should be a better team overall, and I think Denver will be another team that figures it out as they go on. I'd like some of their running pieces, and I gotta feel like Russell Wilson gets a little bit more back. He showed at the end of that game. He finally actually looked a little bit more like Russell Wilson, the annoying son of a bitch that I've had to watch for so many years, being able to just like roll out of a pocket, roll out of a sack, fucking two-handed shovel pass bullshit, and is able to make a 20-yard gain out of it. All sorts of bullshit like that. They'll get by on some of that crap, I'm sure.
I don't think the Broncos' issue is actually offense. I really do think it's the coaching decisions are
Sure.
bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That I think the Broncos issue, like I think you get a different coach in there. This Broncos team's easily putting up 20 to 25 points a game, and we're not even talking about the offense being a huge issue. We're saying it's a little out of sync, but it's getting there. But the coaching decisions have been that bad that it's handcuffing them to that extent, right? I don't think you solve that until you fire that coach, and I don't think they're firing Hackett anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always kind of the interesting thing. I think it's a very, what have you done for me now? Results, immediate results driven league, right? I think given some time, this starts to look a little bit better. I know Hackett was a guy that Rodgers is very complimentary of as far as how the offense ran with him. So I gotta believe there's something there. But hey, this wouldn't be the first time an offensive-minded coach has all of a sudden not been able to run a fucking offense as soon as he had the head coach.
He's
right?
playing against one this week,
Right?
Right? Like he wouldn't be the first quarterback whisperer who can't be a head coach.
Yeah.
Right? In this game, I just feel like there's just a little too much into that Rams offense. But on the flip side, you're 100% right with Garoppolo. He could have one of those games where he looks like just the best game manager you've ever seen.
Yeah.
The Niners win like a 24-17 game where that offense doesn't blow your mind, but they did everything they needed to do to get that game over the finish line, right? Like, Garoppolo at his best is so good at that, at just managing a game to the end where you get that dub, right? Getting enough points to get you over that finish line and get that win.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Yeah.
I just don't know if he's got that in him right now. I don't think he's back to 100% simpatico with this offense yet.
No, and I think that's kind of the reason why I'm almost leaning toward the Niners and Garoppolo on this, getting it right. So he comes in that week 2, not expected to come in. Is kind of a spark plug. Probably has a pretty limited playbook. He hasn't practiced with the team the entire offseason, right? Yeah. Although he knows the team, he knows the scheme, it's a playbook that wasn't designed for him. So it's a very limited playbook probably, and he's playing against a team that isn't very good. So, on either side of the ball. So, able to take advantage of that, look pretty good in a Seattle game, right? Has to come in now as the starter. Playbook plays developed around him. If teams have any kind of footage, it's going to be on the Niners anyways. It's with Garoppolo at the helm. So there's actual game footage to go back on as well for Garoppolo. And he's still having to adjust to getting back into the system. Now, it's like Shanahan have the old playbook from last year. He just pulls that out and he's like, all right, well, let's go with the old playbook. I don't think it quite works like that. I got to imagine there's a little bit more of a hybrid nature to this thing for the offense that Shanahan want to run, and now that he has to kind of run based on Garoppolo. It's always the kind of funny thing is like Trey Lance, obviously there's the athletic talent, that sort of thing. Before the ACL injury, Garoppolo was a decently moving quarterback. He was actually rated as kind of a scrambling quarterback coming out of college. He had some movement. Exactly. So it's like now he's known as a pocket passer, just kind of more or less because ACL injury kind of took that out of him against the Chiefs years ago. But it's kind of interesting how he does have the ability, like if it's a 4th and 1 situation, although this is running obviously, but they'll go QB sneak with him, that sort of thing. I don't know. Talk too much about this game, obviously, but it's the Niners. I can't help it. Yeah, I'm hopeful for them to pull it out.
I get it. I just think the thing that scares me is not necessarily the fact that he was out of sync with players last week. That's going to happen when you haven't trained. It was some of the lack of awareness plays, man, that just really concerned me, because I don't think you catch that back over a week. I think that takes a few games.
Yeah. You don't really see people stepping back out of the end zone. The thing is, the awareness got to be there. Like, you got to just know what situation you're in, and you keep shuffling back. Like, he's got to feel that, right?
Yeah.
Orlovsky at least had Jared Allen, bearing down on him.
And he was trying to run for his life.
Yeah, more or less. He steps 4 times in the back of the end zone, but still a situation. But yeah. All right, so you got the Rams? Lock it in? All right.
I'll lock it. I don't love it, but I'll lock it.
This is crazy. This is by far the record for splits on games. So it should be a very exciting week coming up for our picks. We have 9 games that we differ on right now.
We split that much?
We split that much. 9 out of 15 games. Because we're not in bye weeks yet. Washington at Dallas. I have Dallas. Craig has Washington.
Yeah, that weird gut feeling one. I don't love it.
Seattle at Detroit. I have Detroit. Craig has Seattle.
Fuck.
Chicago at New York. Giants. I got the Giants. Craig has Chicago. If you know something, Craig has 3 away teams right now. Sorry, it's about to change. It's about to change. Jacksonville at Philly. I have Jacksonville. Craig has Philly. That's a -6.5 line, by the way. I guess that's why the picks came in. I haven't brought the lines. -3, -3.5, -3. So all those other previous games within a field goal or so of each other. Buffalo at Baltimore. Baltimore getting +3. I have Baltimore. Craig has Buffalo. That's a very interesting game. That'll be a thrilling one to watch. I'm sure of it. Arizona at Carolina. This is a pick'em game, even split. I have Arizona. Craig has the Carolina Panthers. New England Patriots at the Green Bay Packers. -9.5 for the Green Bay Packers. I have New England. Craig has Green Bay. Make sure you take the under on that one.
Oh, big under.
Denver at Las Vegas. I got the Vegas Raiders getting their first win of the season. Craig has Denver continuing their winning streak here. And then last but not least, the Los Angeles Rams going into San Francisco. -1.5 for the Niners. I got the Niners. That's right. Craig got the Rams.
Very
And that'll do it.
Rams pick.
That'll do it right there. Should be an interesting week of picks going forward. So, we covered the gamut right there. The week that was, the week to come in the NFL. Anything else you want to hit upon as we close out this episode, Craig?
I mean, I was going to talk a little bit of baseball. This has gone on a while, so maybe we save the bases ball for next week. Once we officially know playoff and all that stuff.
There we go.
A little bit of playoff matchups.
A Judge, tip the cap. Absolutely.
Yeah, congrats.
Aaron Judge, baby. Let's go. Love to see some dingers.
Depending on how you like revisionist history, either the most home runs of all time or...
Nah, he's still well behind Barry. Don't worry about it.
Or within...
Sorry, buddy. Sorry, bruh. 73. I need to see that 74 before I really give a shit. All right?
It is the AL record.
Yes.
No AL players ever hit more. Which is interesting because obviously NL was much more hitter-friendly back in the day when pitchers had to hit, so you had a lot more bullpen usage, a lot more pitcher changes. The AL record, because of the way, like, it wouldn't be as big of a thing in the NFL if you had like the AFC record for most passing touchdowns. It'd be like, who cares? You play the same game. But for a while there, you actually weren't. So the NL tended to fare towards hitters a little bit more. So the AL record is kind of a big thing, but it's not the MLB record. I'm sorry. I will not hold this revisionist history. It's Barry Bonds. Okay. I understand the steroid thing. I get it. We've talked about it. But, like, you were letting it happen. It counts. Period.
Yep. You're complicit in the action. That's right.
You can't just all of a sudden go, we're against this now, so boo. Like, that's not how that works. Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's a whole pod on itself as far as and we've talked about it before. Yeah. It's it's awesome though. Like, it's kind of interesting, the gaps. You're just gonna have those players, and the great thing about Judge is he's a pretty damn good overall hitter as well. I think over a 300 hitter, right? So it's like he looks like he's probably going to win the Triple Crown. So,
I mean, okay, wow, Jesus, well over 300.
He's the RBI leader by a mile. He's the home run leader by a mile. The only one that's kind of relatively
on the average
in contention right now is the batting average. I think Judge is hitting 316 or something like that. Whereas Bogarts is hitting so he's hitting 314, Bogarts is hitting 307. So Bogarts could still catch him in the average, but he'd have to have a really bad last week of the season, and Bogarts would have to get pretty hot to do that. Yeah. Actually, never mind. Luis Ariz actually has caught him in the average. So Ariz is batting 315 right now.
Wow.
So he'd have to get a point on Ariz. Yeah. But he's very much in the Triple Crown race.
Yeah. Crazy. Very awesome. We'll have I'm sure we'll cover some playoffs. Yeah, I guess there's a few games we spoke on pretty long here, so pretty long episode of Sports Cliches here. I don't think we have anything more to hit on really right now, so we'll call it right there for y'all. Thank you all for joining us very, very much. Be sure to check us out. We are on every Friday evening around 6 p.m. PST. Try to get around there. You can catch us on this channel right here, twitch.tv/tapatioj. That's TAPATIOJ. Or make sure to check out the VODs that we have posted. We'll get the next couple ones posted up. I forgot to give Craig's last week's.
We'll have 2 up pretty soon.
2 week, yeah. We'll have this one up tomorrow evening. You catch us, look us up on YouTube for the Sports Cliches podcast. That should pop right up for you. But yeah, until next time, thank you all for joining us. Hope you have a great evening. Looking forward to a great weekend of football. We'll see you on the other side.